What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if the council rejected Naruto's existence and he became the villain Konoha feared? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Naruto looking from one side to the other as he stood in the legendary dueling grounds, that is known as the Valley of the End. On the side to where Naruto was looking, he saw two people that he knew as teammates to Team 7. One being Uchiha Sasuke, the village's favored ninja, as he had a fully developed Sharingan in his eyes, and the other being Haruno Sakura, a girl that had been his longtime crush. Naruto saw Sakura hiding behind one of the statues of Uchiha Madara. While Sasuke looked at the Jinchuriki with so much hatred, all that Naruto had seen most of his entire life. While Naruto was in his demon fox cloak, he held out on had as a purple Rasengan started to form easily without a cloak. Sasuke on the other hand looked rather deformed, looking bad of some sorts, as he made a black lightning Chidori in his own hand. Naruto could sense that this would be final attempt to bring his two friends back home to Konoha, so he charged forward as Sasuke did the same thing. Rasengan, Chidori. Both ninjas called out their attacks as each began to clash, with one trying to overpower the other. Of course, since Naruto's only focus was on Sasuke, he had failed to notice that Sakura had somehow gotten behind him. The moment that Sakura was directly in back of the blonde, she had taken some shuriken out from her ninja pouch and held them in her hand as she started to shake terribly, whether she should strike or not. Until finally she had remembered what Naruto had done to him in her mind, and that was becoming stronger than her Sasuke-kun. Naruto, Sasuke. At that moment Naruto felt a seething pain in his back as he looked around to see Sakura with a satisfied smile on her face. Naruto no longer needed to know what had just happened to him, as then felt another pain hit him in the chest. The blonde looked back to the front as he saw that Sasuke had stabbed him with a Chidori again in the chest. He then started to fall into the water, but he was caught by Sakura to keep him from landing into the water, only to be thrown into a wall that he had slammed into previously during their fight. Before this had happened, as Sakura started to beat her fist upon him relentlessly. Sasuke stood there as he watched the pink-haired girl beat on the now helpless blonde, as he had a smirk on his face. Just as she was about to finish her work with one last punch to the blonde, he had caught her fist in one hand with a strong grip. Their faces were of one with shock as they saw Naruto looking back at them with a slitted eye. Sasuke then came out of his shock as he gave the strongest kick to his former friend in the stomach. The kick had been strong enough to break the rocked wall to make a cave. Sasuke looking into the cave that he had made, he knew that Naruto was somewhere in there, and this time he wanted to make sure he was finished. He had taken out a kunai from his pouch, then was about to walk inside of the cave to finish the job. Kaden. Gukakyu no Jutsu. A voice called from a distance as a very large fireball shot at the two defecting ninjas. Sasuke knew who this voice belonged to, as he no longer could activate Sharingan anymore. Uchiha Itachi. Sasuke yelled as his hatred took control of him, but just as he was about to make a move toward the older Uchiha, he felt hands holding him back from behind. He then turned to see Sakura. "You better let me go this instant, Sakura. Sasuke-kun, please listen to me for once." Sakura looked at her love with pleading eyes. "This was the reason why we decided to leave Konoha, so we could get stronger together, and then you can get your vengeance." Just when Sakura thought that Sasuke had seen what he said was true, she let go of him, only to be hit in the face by the same Uchiha that she had followed to go to Orochimaru. Again, as he hatred fueled him, made the necessary hand seals to make the one technique that he thought was invincible. "Chidori," he called out again. "Foolish," Itachi said as he watched Sasuke started to charge at him, the moment his little brother had gotten close enough to thrust his hand forward. Itachi could not help but find himself a little amused as history repeated itself in a way. He then looked around the area as he was sure that he felt the blonde Jinchuriki chakra earlier, only to no longer sense it. "Where is Naruto-kun, foolish brother?" Sasuke's eyes then showed more hatred again as he again was being ignored by his brother. "That dobe should be lying face down dead by now, and soon you will join him." Itachi's eyes then hardened at the moment his brother mentioned that Naruto may be dead. At the moment the older Uchiha then decided to do another repeat of their previous encounter of each other. With a slight jerk of his own hand, Itachi had broken the exact same arm that he had done previously before, however he did not finish here. He then reached over to the other hand, broke it the same way as he did the other one. Sasuke on his part let out a yell that was filled with overwhelming pain, then the moment Itachi let go, Sasuke had fallen to his knees as he stood perfectly still. Sakura, thinking that she could do a repeat of what she had accomplished earlier with Naruto, came out from some bushes behind the older Uchiha with kunais in her hand. However, this was not to be so, as she was then hit from behind in the back, then was pinned to the ground as she looked up to see she was at Itachi's feet. "Kisame," Itachi said as he partner of Akatsuki looked up to him and grinned. "Thought I would get in on some of the fun, but looks like I missed out on it," Kisame said as he brought his gaze to the pink-haired girl. "So tell us, Pinky, where's the blonde brat?" "Sasuke-kun already told you, partner, baka," Sakura yelled at the former Mizu ninja as she looked to Itachi, who had a frown on his face. "It looks like that your Sasuke-kun has left you to our mercy," Itachi said as he revealed that Sasuke had indeed left her to the wolves. "Sasuke-kun wouldn't, Sasuke-kun. So what are we gonna do with this Lee idol, Gaki?" Kisame said as he brought up his sword. "Do whatever you want with her," Itachi said as he looked around the area, then saw all the destroyed pieces of the Valley of the End. In a sense, it was telling him of what had happened. Kisame then put his sword on the girl's back as he took his time in waiting to shred the girl apart. However, it was then brought to an end before he even got started as he was kicked off Sakura. Itachi, having the sense, jumped away from the girl in time to see Hitaki Kakashi over the Sakura. Kakashi then stood in front of his crying student, then looked to the two Akatsuki members with untold determination. "Where are Naruto and Sasuke? My foolish brother went to Orochimaru. Naruto, however, is another case, as we had asked the same thing of your student back there," Itachi said calmly as it had started to rain the moment Sasuke told them he is dead. Kakashi looked to the two, hoping that he can somehow escape with his remaining student of Team 7. But was brought out of his thoughts on a plan of escape when Itachi turned around. "We're going now, Kisame." Kisame let out an annoyed sigh as he was again denied the chance to fight Kakashi. But he did as he was told, then put his sword back on his holster, then shunshined out of the area, leaving a troubled Kakashi on what he should do now, with the loss of his students. Kakashi then picked up Sakura over his back as he made his way back to Konoha. The moment he left the area, the cave that housed Naruto had collapsed at the entrance, sealing him from the rest of the world. Cave. A few hours later, Naruto had finally awoken from being unconscious that he had went into due to his injuries, at the hands of his former friends. He had tried to get up from the rocks that had fallen on him, which could have been his would-be grave. Finding himself still unable to make any big movements due to lack of strength, he willed himself to get up. Despite the pain of this attempt, his will to now die then and there had given him the strength to get to his feet. Seeing as he is now trapped in the cave that looked to be his personal tomb, he started to feel around the area to find a way out. It had seemed that luck was finally on his side, as his hands felt a smooth wall of what felt to be of a building inside the cave. Having no other choice at the moment, Naruto started to feel his way around by using the wall of the place. After what had seemed like hours of walking blindly to what almost seemed endless, Naruto finally came to an opening as he fell forward. After a few moments, Naruto then picked himself up from the ground again with much strain. As he picked himself up from the floor again, he saw a single glowing square. With no other option available to him, he walked over and then pressed the glowing square button. Just then he heard a few sound around him, as well as the lights had turned on around him to see some kind of lab. Naruto looked around the strange-looking lab as he saw a very large glass tube that looked to be for something. "Unidentified male has gained entry into Shinra Facility 16. A voice said that came from all around him, which caused him to back up into a wall. The unidentified male has sustained a serious injury to his left shoulder and will be deceased without medical attention immediately. Naruto looking everywhere to find the voice of the person who spoke to him from all around him. However, he gave up upon hearing that he will die at the notion of not seeing a doctor. "Wait, are you saying that I will die if I don't get help?" "That is correct." Naruto closed his eyes as he had asked the Kyuubi to see if this was true, since he knew well enough from the fox healed whatever wound he gained. However, his response from the Kyuubi had told him that even with her healing him the best she can, she had told him that he needed help. Naruto had sighed from getting the information he needed from the female Biju, as he looked up. Is there any way I can get help from this place here? Yes, this lab has the means to treat your wounds as well as make you stronger. The voice said as it sounds much like a woman's as well, only gentle. This will allow you to have more increased chances of avoiding such injuries in the future. What must I do? Take 2 steps forward from the wall where you currently are now. Hi, Naruto replied as he did as he was told, only 2 for a glass cylinder came from under him. Then without him knowing a metal top had come from the ceiling of the room. Now commencing liquid Mako infusion. Just then some glowing green water had started to pour in from the top of the cylinder as Naruto started to panic while it filled up. What the hell are you doing? Liquid Mako infusion to your body while your body will recover from your wound. The liquid Mako also works as liquid air, so you will not die from your lungs being filled with water. While you will go through Mako infusion, the Mako energy will fill every cell inside your body as well as consciousness. However, for this to go into action you will be required to be in a state of sleep, but I must ask you, is there any kind of abilities you wish to acquire? What do you have that I can have for fighting? The following is of the what can be given to you for the necessary means for combat. The swordsmanship skill that you can be given are of 3 types of sword classes: Buster Sword, Rapier, and a Katana. A miscellaneous sword is also available to you as well, called a Reveler Gunblade. Hand-to-hand skills might suffice for close combat. Magic is another ability you wish to learn. That is a lot of skills to choose from. Are there others aside from weapons? Yes, magic is also available for you to choose from. Wait, you said magic, right? Correct. What can I learn from magic? With magic you gain the ability to control the elements as well as non-elements. Such as? You will gain the ability to affect time, inflict an opponent's personal health, which is called status effect, as well as healing an allied person or persons from wounds, including yourself. Summons will also be available to you should you choose to take magic into your arsenals. I see, Naruto said as he thought long and hard on what he wanted to choose, only then his head perked up. Is it possible to have all these skills? After a few moments of waiting for a response from the voice in the room, then thought it was not going to happen. Yes, such a request is possible, if that is what you wish. Naruto let out a huge grin just as the water well was near his stomach. Then I will take all of those skills you just said. Very well, the voice said as a breather mask came down to him and a strange looking helmet came as well. Please put the breather mask in your mouth as the data helmet would automatically be secured on you to your head. If I may also suggest the following, Wolf, you like any kind of transport available for your awakening? What kind of transport? There is only one that can made in this facility only, due to the lack of resources. Well, I guess that will be okay. Clothes will be provided for you with special status effect will be also be ready once you are completely infused with Mako along with your newfound powers. Okay, now commencing hibernation phase. Once those words were said to him from the voice in the room, the entire lab of Shinra Lab Facility 16 started to activate. However, Naruto had fallen asleep as when the lab had started to go to work on his weapons, as well as his new transport on land for him as it started to be assembled in another room. Cave. 3 years later. Mako infusion complete, now emptying liquid Mako from cylinder 3. The female voice said as the liquid Mako started to drain from the cylinder. The head mask had come off the now silver-haired teen who had long hair that reached down to his shoulders. It was no longer spiky as he had started to lay down flat, with some of his bangs covering his right eye. Naruto's eyes were still blue, however they seemed to let out a greenish glow in them due to his Mako infusion. He now stood there naked as his skin was a bit more pale now as it was no long tan like it used to be. Due to the Mako that had been empowered 2 times a week, that had destroyed his old clothes that he came in with. Once the Mako had been finally drained and freed from the cylinder, Naruto looked around the area. You had informed me that clothes would be ready for the moment I had completed my Mako infusion. Naruto said in a voice that had no emotions. You are correct, your clothes are waiting for you in the next room to the left. Very well. Naruto had went into the room as he looked around to find his clothes, which had not even taken a few seconds. He then walked over to the table, then looked at the entire outfit as he looked them over for a long while. The now sliver-haired Jinchuriki began to put his clothes on one by one, which consisted of black pants with a matching turtleneck shirt. Once he had gotten the black clothing on, he then proceeded to put on a crimson trench coat with black shoulder guards. The last things that were left were a pair of crimson fingerless gloves and a pair of black boots, along with Shodem's necklace. The moment Naruto found himself to be acceptable for himself, then up in the room with his slitted eyes. Are my desired weapons ready for combat? Yes, they have been ready within the first year of your Mako infusion, and I have taken the liberty of making new clothes in case the ones you wear now will get damage. Oh, these clothes also have the same additions of your current garments. Naruto then looked around the second room of the lab as he looked for such clothes that were told from the computer, whom he learned while he was awoken from his sleep during the second year. She was later introduced herself as Lucretia Crescent, who had given him the means of gain his newfound strength. While she had process of loading his mind with the knowledge of what he needed to master everything he had asked for 3 years ago. She had looked into his memories of what his life had been like from the days he could even remember. To say that she was mortified at the amount of abuse he had endured throughout his life and had not broken his mind was incredible. The more she had looked into his memories, the more she became fascinated by his will to keep moving forward. In the nearing of the end of the second year, Lucretia found herself attracted to him as a man. So during the time she had weekly reports for him on his status were moments she looked forward to. They would engage in talks about how he had taken missions to places outside his village, though most were boring to him. Lucretia found his irritation of doing such pointless missions funny to herself, and Naruto somehow felt her happiness, things that annoyed him. Of course he no longer minded telling these things as he had made him feel a bit differently towards her. Lucretia, what will you do now? I cannot leave the facility really, as my consciousness has remained within the mainframe of this system. Why do you ask? Is there any methods in bringing you along with me? Naruto, why the sudden interest in bringing me with you? Naruto took each weapon as he gave them each a few good swings before dismissing each weapon into his own consciousness. Until he came across a rather unusual looking buster sword that had caught his attention. This sword seemed different than the others. Lucretia, would you mind telling me why? Oh, yes, I had almost forgotten in telling you that I wanted to make something different rather than a plain buster sword for you. The sword was used by a man named Cloud Strife. It is called the first Tsurugi. However, in this case I guess we can call it the second Tsurugi, seeing that these is not the first sword. This sword is actually 5 different swords linked together, to make it a buster sword. I see, this is a very interesting sword. Well, I'm happy that you find it to your liking, Naruto-kun. Now back to my previous question, is there any method or a means to bring you with me? Yes, though there is a great risk in doing such a method. Tell me, as I am willing to take such a risk. Size. It is the same method in which I used in loading my consciousness as before. The risk is very high in doing such a method of you going into a coma. Do it anyways. Naruto, this is a very serious matter in doing this. Why are you so determined in taking me with you? No person should live in confinement. After what seemed like hours between the two, Lucercha let out a defeated sigh as she knew that the silvered-haired teen was too stubborn. Very well. Get back into the container one more time, as this will not take long. Konoha. Late in the night. Throughout the streets of Konoha the town became very empty as people were now asleep, except for the Junin or Anbu guards. While everyone slept peacefully in their sleep, a single figure floated high above the village. This figure looked down upon the village, that he fought to protect with his life and to never go back on his word, when he spoke such an oath. However, this time as he looked at the village, the silver-haired Jinchuriki looked at it with such disgust. He then looked over the northwest part of town, as he knew that side had housed the most of the civilian members of the council. Naruto then silently flew in that direction as he knew 2 members, who once said he would never amount to anything, lived. A few hours later, as he stood quietly over the dead bodies of the civilian members of the council at his feet, he looked to the side to see one still alive. One of 2 who had said those words to him so long ago, Utatane Kaharu, one of Sandame's old teammates. She sat there against the wall with fear overcoming her body as she watched the silver-haired teen kill her supporters. Naruto then started to walk over to her slowly, with each step striking more fear into the elder. Only to stop at a good distance from the elder member of the council of Konohagakure no Sato. How does it feel to be at the mercy of the one you tried so hard to hated? What do you mean, I have never seen you before? Think back 15 years ago, you tried to have me killed for something I never had choice in. Kaharu then thought back all those times as she never once tried to do anything of the sorts to this silver-haired teen. The only one who she had arranged for to be killed was Uzumaki Naruto. Then it had finally dawned on her as she looked up into the glowing slitted eyes of the silver-haired teen. "It's you. You can't be you. The Haruno girl told us that you were dead." "So Haruno Sakura had told you of my demise, then I guess she was sadly mistaken then," Naruto said in a deep cold voice as he closed his eyes, only to open them again. "This time you face judgment. My judgment, and I find you unworthy of your life." The moment that was said, the Masamune then appeared as he swung his sword across the room. As it had severed the ninja elder's head from her body swiftly without leaving any blood. Naruto slid the door open as he looked up at the moonless sky and flown over to the Hokage monument slyly fast. Once he landed on top of Yondaimi's head, he turned around as he held his hand out to the building that he left from. At that moment the entire house had been consumed by a black dome, then lights of all colors were seen going into the dome. As they gathered at the center of the dome and began to become an orb of multicolored light. Those were patrolling the area that were either Junin or Anbu, who saw what was happening. Watched at what was happening before them. Then as one final light went into the dome, a blinding flash of green shot out. Followed by a large green dome burst from the light as it destroyed the entire building or anything within that building's range, which won only the house itself. People came out their houses at hearing the loud explosion in the village, as ninjas waited for the flames to die down. Far away, Naruto looked at the scene of the display of his power with the same cold eyes he gave Kaharu. As he felt something sprout from his back as one black wing appeared from his right side on his back. "Now, it is time I went to see the Hokage. Tsunade-sama, are you sure this is a wise decision to make?" A short brown-haired woman asked as she looked down into the stadium. "Honestly, I am not very sure of this my choice at all," Tsunade said as she too looked down to see a silver-haired ninja who had no facial expression at all. "But that brat down there gave me a big deal for this match," the blonde Hokage said as she thought back to a couple of nights ago. Flashback. Tsunade had looked out her window to see the destroyed area of a good majority of Konohagakure no Sato's civilian council were living. That was now destroyed, something or someone with an unknown jutsu that looked capable of more destruction. Immediately she thought that maybe it could have a surprise attack by Orochimaru. But she shot the idea down, as she speculated that the hubby might be off trying to control Uchiha Sasuke. Then her thoughts went to Akatsuki as that reasoning had more loopholes in her logical thoughts. Since they might have gotten word of Naruto's death that was reported in Haruno Sakura's debriefing. But for reasons to herself, she felt that the pink-haired girl was not telling her everything of what happened at the Valley of the End. Surely Akatsuki would not strike here as it was made public that he was dead, by the same civilian council. That had been moving to ask Tsunade to step down as Hokage, however that decision had been rejected on numerous occasions. "After 3 years, you still have been doing the same routine, Tsunade-san," an emotionless voice said from behind herself, as she turned around to see a silver-haired young man looking at her. "You have some nerve to come into my office without permission." The silver-haired teen kept his emptied gaze at her eyes. "Anbu," Tsunade called out as 4 people in Anbu masks surrounded the teen, who still had not taken his gaze off the blonde Hokage. "Take our guest here to Ibiki and get what information out from him." "Hi, Hokage-sama," the 4 Anbu said as one. Just as they about to put their hands on him, a red flash of light came out. The Anbu then fell to the ground holding their wounds that had been inflicted by the silver-haired youth. Tsunade looked at her fallen Anbu to see their injuries. She then saw their injuries were not fatal. Just as she was about to sigh in relief at her Anbu would be saved from the wounds. She remembered that the one who had given the Anbu was still in the room with her as well. She looked over to him as she saw that the youth had a strange red-bladed sword in his hands. "Do I have your attention?" the silver-haired youth asked while looking to Tsunade, who nodded her head. "Very good, now I have come to learn about my demise that was reported 3 years ago by one Haruno Sakura at the Valley of the End." Tsunade looked at the person who had spoken of that fateful day that Konoha had lost its promising ninja at the hands of Uchiha Sasuke. The busty blonde looked at the silver youth again as she was wondering why he would want this information. Seeing as she that even if she, herself were to try to fight the young swordsman on her own would be fatal. "If you must know, Gaki," Then I will tell you. Suande said as she stood up from her crouching on the floor. But I want to know why you are interested in this piece of information? I shall give you the answer, once you have fulfilled my request first. Now explain. Tsunade then took a deep breath as she told the swordsman everything that was reported by Haruno Sakura. Everything almost seemed perfect in Sasuke being able to overpower Naruto's Rasengan with his Chidori. Including the information that he had somehow fallen into the water, then sank into the bottom. Even the fact that Sakura had said that she was too frightened to help her blonde teammate, with the fear of Sasuke killing her. He was even told that Kakashi had tried to get Naruto's scent with his tracking dogs that he could summon. In which that the Junin tried to look for him once every month. Hearing this about Kakashi somehow made Naruto calm down as he was not forgotten by his sensei. However, that smile had quickly faded away as soon as it was there on his face. You have given me the necessary information I needed, so as I had promised, I will give you an answer. Naruto said as he moved his silver hair back to show her, his whisker mark on his face, as her heard her gasp. Naruto, she said as her eyes looked pleading at him too. It has been a long 3 years, has it not, Tsunade-sama? Naruto was about to say more until he felt himself in the blonde's arms as she was hugging him tightly. Gaki, don't ever give me a scare like that one you just gave me. Tsunade yelled as she kept her grip on him. They soon separated from each other as they heard the Anbu groan in pain. Good, now that you are back in Konoha as well as caused a mess in the office with the blood on the floor. You better accept responsibility in helping me in getting them to the hospital, as you had sent a discharged Anbu member who was back on duty. Naruto looked at everyone for a few moments as he held his hand up in the air, then a bright blue light emanated from his hand. Kuraja. Naruto muttered to himself as the same light separated from his hand into 4 orbs of light. Then immediately went into the bodies of the 4 fallen Anbu members. The moment the light went into their bodies, they glowed with the same color of light that came from the silver-haired Jinchuriki. The 4 Anbu then felt that the wounds they had their hands on were gone as well as a feeling of being back to full strength. They had gotten up from where they were laying down and had checked themselves over again, to see if it was not a genjutsu or anything of the like. Once they made sure that they were now all right, the 4 looked over to Naruto, as saw a man with great power to make or break anyone who crossed his path. Naruto, how did you do medical jutsu? Tsunade asked as she looked at the now silver-haired swordsman. I had acquired the skill, through the only means of my only source I had accessible. Naruto said flatly as he had finally taken a seat in the office. Tsunade's eyes widened as she came to one conclusion. Kyuubi no Yoko. Naruto had not answered her or even gave one notion that she was correct. No, you didn't, and you know that is a complete lie, Naruto-kun. Kyuubi said in his mindscape, that was no longer a wet sewer anymore. Well, he had not entirely lied to Tsunade at all, Kyuubi-san. Lucretia said as she had sat down on a chair that Naruto created for her. How so? Well, Naruto-kun had said that he learned from the only source that he had access to. However, Tsunade came to the thought of him learning it from you. Lucretia said as she saw Kyuubi nod her head once in understanding. Naruto did not say who he actually learned from, in fact he said nothing at all to give a definitive answer. Well, you got me there. I bet she is going to want to test his skills as a ninja. Upon seeing that everyone is alright as well as having her surrogate son back in the village, Tsunade then sat back in her desk. Now that you have returned from wherever you have been for 3 years, Naruto, I am going to have to ask you this. Are you strong enough to test your skills as a ninja against opponents of my choosing? Naruto looked at her with a gaze in his little eyes as it looked like his eyes could burn a person's soul. Tsunade, if you wish to test my combat abilities in battle, then I must request the following teams. Tsunade looked at the silver-haired swordsman as he placed his sword in his holster that is hooked to his belt. Then tell me your request, Naruto. I want what remains of Team 7, Team 8 which consists of Hyuga Hinata, Inuzuka Kiba and Aburame Shino. Then there is Team 10 which is made up of the Ino Shika Cho trio. Lastly Team Guy, Naruto stated as he showed no emotion of what he was asking for. Naruto, do you have any idea on what you are asking in this? Tsunade asked as she was shocked that he called upon a group that were Chunin-level ninjas now and he was a mere genin. Yes, because from the information you have provided me earlier, it seems the council had took it upon themselves to reveal my burden to the village. As I was marked as dead, Sandame's law was no longer in effect. So I wish to see which of the following people in these teams will see me as Naruto Uzumaki. Well, I cannot blame you for wanting this to see who you can trust and who you can't, so I will make it happen. Tsunade said as she looked at him. Again, he had no expression on him for discomfort of any kind. Tsunade, I wish to make a wager in this match with you. This had caught Tsunade by surprise, as she knew that she was a terrible gambler, at the same time amused. Oh, so what do you want? I want that I can have Sannin travel rights in me leaving when I wish to, as well as not to be followed. I am sorry Naruto, but I cannot allow that as you are being targeted by Akatsuki. I assure you that my proposition I am making will give you great benefits to you. Somehow I am doubting that a lot Naruto, but to humor you tell what you have to offer. Naruto then had an amused feeling in what he had, that Tsunade or any other Kage in their shoes would kill for. I know of a method to greatly improve on your paperwork. Naruto, please I beg of you tell me what it is. Tsunade said as she slammed her hand on the desk, making it break from her strength. Even the Anbu in the room with them were wanting to know the secret for their captains, did not like writing them either. I will, if you agree to my terms and my wager on my test. Naruto said as he closed his eyes as he begun to walk out the door. Fine, brat, you got it. If you win I will give you your travel passes, just please tell me already. Naruto stopped at the door to turn his head slightly. When I have won my match, I will tell you. Naruto said as he then started to walk out the door. End flashback. Naruto had his back turned to them as he let his newfound power be felt as it radiated from his body. He then turned around to face the Rookie 9 as he had also requested that his identity be kept a secret from his opponents and that he would tell them on his own, during or after the match was won. The silver-haired swordsman looked at everyone, one of the Rookie 9 and Team Guy, as he saw two new additions to Team 7 as well. One being a very pale-skinned boy who also had a sword strapped to his back, while the other was female with a long red hair with blue eyes that were a bit darker than his own. Uzumaki Hikari, Naruto said as his voice got her attention to him as she looked him dead in the eyes. Those slitted eyes showed no trace of anger or joy, it was like a void into nothingness. The girl in question looked to the swordsman as looked away from him. "WWW, what do you want?" Hikari asked as fear began to spread rapidly throughout her body. Naruto had not answered her, instead he looked up to the daimyo's seat. It was then he saw her, Uzumaki Kushina. Naruto had looked to the woman for a brief few seconds as he then turned his gaze to his 12 opponents. He looked to all of them as he felt the fear running through their bodies at his mere presence, as his power radiated from his body. Tsunade then got up from her chair that was just next to the fire daimyo along with a few others people from different villages. One being the new Mizukage Terumi Mei of Kirigakure no Sato along with Sabaku no Gara the Godem Case Kage, Princess Yukie Fuji Kase of Yuki no Kuni. Even a representative of Kumo was allowed to come in hopes of making peace between Konoha and themselves. However, unknown to them was another set of eyes watching this event as well under orders from his leader. People of Konoha, honored guests, I have sanctioned this test in hopes of demonstration of this man, who wishes to be allowed to fight for Konoha independently. Tsunade said as she looked to everyone who had now looked up to her, even the Rookie 9 with Team Guy. Naruto however kept his gaze on his opponents. We hope to gain this man's skills in hopes to better our village as well become a bringer of peace. Now everyone, are you ready? The 12 Chunins nodded their heads as Naruto did the same thing, but had made no move to ready himself. Instead he took the extra time to think of his own plan for his opponent's strengths and weakness, as he had fought or seen them fight before in his life. Naruto knowing he can defeat the Chunins without making even the slightest effort in his skills. However, this was also a sign of arrogance, something he can do without in his life. Knowing what skills that he had seen in the past at the Chunin exams, the silver-haired swordsman was now not one to be without a strategy. Kiba along with Choji attacks are more based on strength than anything else, however Kiba is synced with Akamaru in speed attacks. A quality that is shared along with Rock Lee. The Hyugas also share the same ideal in speed attacks to inflict internal damage to the body. Aburame Shino specializes in bug jutsus of his clan, such as a weakness that all of my opponents share in themselves. They have not once attempted to go beyond what is required from their clans. A problem that I will remedy in this match, However, I must stay wary of Uzumaki Hikari as I have yet to observe her skills in battle. I have deduced my opponent's strengths as well as weaknesses, so I only needed 3 spells from my arsenal that will guarantee me victory. Naruto thought as he had to monitor his opponents. Yosh, I shall show you the burning flames of youth of Konoha. Lee declared as he pointed his finger at Naruto, who he did not know it is. Konoha Senpu. Lee called out his attack. Unfortunately for him, as he had connected with this attack, people of shinobi status were shocked to see the silver-haired youth holding Lee's fought with his left hand like he was a piece of paper. If you are going to attack me, I advise you to use your strength to its fullest. Naruto said in a cold tone, as he tossed Lee into the air, then waited for him to come back down, so he could defeat him. However, just as he was about to make his move to the now falling Chunin, he found himself in a small restraint on his body. He saw his own shadow being connected to an extending shadow that was 15 feet away from himself, as he saw Nara Shikamaru using his family jutsu on him. Such a futile effort to restrain a warrior whom they have no knowledge about. Do it now, Choji. Shikamaru called out to his best friend, as Naruto looked to his left where Shikamaru called out to. Choji then went through the needed hand seals as he jumped high in the air. Nakuden Hari Shensha. Choji called out as his hair now longer hair grew even more so than before. Naruto, upon further inspection of the oncoming skill, saw that Choji had made the ends of his hair become sharp like blades. As the Akamichi started to spin in forward rotation in hopes to defeat the swordsman, while his teammates stood on either side of the target in case he was still able to fight. Protect, Naruto whispered to himself moments before the attack was about to hit him. The moment the spell was spoken silently from the swordsman's lips, a glowing green barrier in the shape of his own BDY formed around Naruto, that made spinning Choji launch back into a wall, causing him to destroy it. Naruto-kun, the best course of action would be is to get rid of the strategist, so you will have a better chance at defeating your opponents. Lucretia said to her shared vessel. Understood, was Naruto's only reply to the woman within his mind, as he then charged Shikamaru at the speed of a very high Junin would have, making the Nara look in shock. Because Naruto had overpowered his Kageme no Jutsu like it was his own shadow, while having the Nara in a state of shock, Naruto then delivered a not too strong punch in the man's gut, as the force of the punch had lifted the Nara from the ground and to make a hard impact into the wall. The remaining Chunin looked at their fallen strategist for a few moments, thinking that they might have made a mistake in accepting the Hokage's request for this match. Hinata, Neji, Sakura called out as she got the two's attention to her, while Naruto looked to her too, thinking she might have come up with a plan to defeat Hai. Block his chakra paths with your Jukin. If it works, we will have this match in the bag. Sakura said as Naruto knew of the Jukin of the Hyuga family very well, since he had experienced it in the Chunin exams. He no longer saw this as a threat to himself anymore compared to back then. His face still is calm, as he showed no signs of fear of worry as he continued to watch the two Hyugas charge at him. Byakugan. Both Neji and Hinata called out in their run, only for them to shield their eyes from what they were seeing before them as they came to a stop. What they saw was, if one could describe it, was a human-shaped sun that stood before them. After a few moments, Neji decided to make his move as he would hope to guess that he would hit the man's chakra coils. Once Neji struck the silver-haired teen body, he saw that strange green barrier glowed the moment his strike was just inches from his opponent's body. Naruto then spun around in a complete circle while still being in front of Neji. The moment Naruto came around to face Neji again, his brought a sword of a strange-looking handle on it, and the moment the sword came slashing fast, a loud bang could be heard from the blade as a small burst of flames followed the sword's path, cutting as well as burning Neji's chest. Neji ni-san. Everyone of what was left of those who were standing called out as they saw their Junin fall and wounded from the swordsman. Which made Hinata look at the teen with anger and strength as she charged forward to make the teen pay for her family member's wounds. Unfortunately for her, to make any attack required her to get in close quarters combat, which Naruto also knew from fighting Neji 3 years ago. As she to use her own Jukin on Naruto, all the while he had kept still, allowing the protect spell to take the blows for him. After a few more seconds, Hinata kept trying to strike his chakra coils with so much fury in her heart that she had failed to notice the sliver-haired teen raise his hand and had clearly knocked her out with a chop to the neck. Kaden. Karyu Enden. A voice of a girl called out as he saw the redhead Uzumaki was in mere seconds of letting out a Kaiden jutsu. Again he whispered to himself for another spell to use, knowing the clothes Lucretia had made for him would save him from any elemental damage. But he was not one to take on any chances as he was before his awakening a few days ago. Shell, Naruto whispered as he a dark pink egg, that looking the size of a full-grown adult formed around Naruto seconds before the flames consumed him. Kushina let out a pleasing smile at her daughter Hikari had done, while other people gasped of seeing the teen die before them. Hikari herself was a bit in a state of shock for what she had done, to a person who had not really wronged her in any way. The girl had never really killed anyone in all her time of being a kunoichi. Sakura along with Tenten and Ino, came up to Hikari who was now crying for taking a life. The other still males that are still able to move, also went to comfort the Uzumaki heiress. However, gasps from the people in the stadiums had brought the Chunin along with the only other Junin left to look in the inferno. There was within the flames stood a figure with his head down for a few moments, as he slowly brought his head up and had given them a smile that looked the very definition of cruelty. The figure walked through the flames as if he were the Shinigami walking through a flames river, as if he were coming from the entrance of hell. The moment he had walked out of the flames that were still burning behind them, he saw the fear going through their bodies. Such methods of attacks or strategies will not be your salvation, in hopes of victory. Naruto said as he jumped into the air with his gunblade in one hand as energy gathered in the blade. Then he swung his gunblade forward in the air as he charged at great speeds, which he went past them as he slashed his gunblade at everyone but Hikari. The instant Naruto landed behind his opponents, a blast erupted from the Chunin's and Joinin's chest area. They had all fallen to the ground with the exception of Hikari, as she found herself alone fighting this nightmare. To think, all this time I had a little sister. Naruto said as his back was turned her own, while his words making Hikari's widen. Wait, what did you say? Hikari said as she turned around to face the silver-haired teen's back. I was told that Oni-san was dead a long time ago by Okawa-sama. How pitiful. Naruto said as he closed his eyes and thought back to the night he was about to leave the Hokage's office. Flashback. Naruto, there is more you should know before you leave here tonight. Tsunade said as Naruto stopped in his walk to hear her out. What information do you have that could possibly affect me? Naruto said as he turned around to face Tsunade, as he saw a look of uncertainty. It is information on your mother. Tsunade said as this caught Naruto's attention that made him come back and stand in front of her desk. Proceed, will you, Tsunade? Well, you are not going to like this one bit, Naruto, and do not get me wrong, I will find no fault with you after you heard what I am going to tell you, said Tsunade as she took a few moments to let out a breath. Your mother had returned to the village after the news of your death was released to the other villages. After the sealing of Kyuubi no Yoko, she went on to see you, or the Kyuubi in human form, that had taken your father as well as she puts it her son from herself. So she had immediately gave you up on the sole purpose of protecting her daughter that had given birth to on that night. Naruto's slitted eyes widened as he heard everything that was been told of his mother's abandonment of him, then having a twin sister. He was about to say something, only for Tsunade to speak again. There is more, said the blonde Kage as she knew Naruto's mind was in confusion. Before she had left the village, she had told Sandame, that her along with what was left of her family were going to become guards for the fire daimyo and would not come back if there was word that you are no longer within the lands of Hai no Kuni, or dead for that matter. Naruto stood there in silence for a brief moment, staring into space. Did you have prior knowledge of such information regarding my mother? No, I had no knowledge of her leaving Konoha and was under the impression of her dying in childbirth, Tsunade said truthfully as she locked her eyes with Naruto's for a few moments, then nodded his head as he saw no trace of deceit in her. What of my twin sister? That I did know of, since I was the one who delivered the two of you that night, she said as Naruto arched a brow at her. Please understand, Naruto, that I wanted to tell you when we had first arrived in Konoha or when we started back to the village. But if I had told you this, you would have went out to search for her without any knowledge or of a calm mind that you seem to have now. Naruto, seeing her reasoning in the argument, knew she was right about himself prior to 3 years ago. I see your judgment was one of a correct frame of mind, so I will not protest you on it. Is my twin sister among the current shinobi ranks in the village? Yes, she is the newest member of Team Kakashi, along with a boy named Sai, who who was requested by the council to guard Uzumaki Hikari. However, I do not entirely trust that boy, seeing as he was selected by Sandame's old rival in being Hokage. Very well, I will also see this match as an opportunity to gauge how far my sister has come. In what I assumed that she was taught by the woman who had betrayed me, now I will take my leave. Naruto, please have mercy on Hikari, Tsunade said as she was also fond of the twin much like her brother. She too is a victim in this confusion, just as much as you are. In fact, she is mostly can be seen at the academy with Iruka, talking about what you were like. We shall see, when the time of my match begins, Naruto said as he turned around, but had not moved to walk out. Instead he looked back. For the record, Tsunade, I already had a mother, though we spent a few months together as when you became Hokage and I had went missing. I still see you as that mother I never had in my entire life. Naruto said as he walked out the door. End flashback. Naruto, who turned to look at his twin sister, just as she did with him, their eyes locked onto each other. I am, or rather in fact I was, Uzumaki Naruto, who was abandoned by Uzumaki Kushina on the day of the Kyuubi attack, after it was sealed inside of me. The people in the stands were shocked at what had Naruto just said, as others were yelling that the Kyuubi brat was still alive. The fire daimyo looked at Kushina, whose face was now one of a displeased look. Kushina is what this young man says, true. Do not be fooled by its looks, that person is the Kyuubi no Yoko, Daimyo-sama. Kasehina said as she was about to jump down to retrieve her daughter so they could leave again. But this time she was stopped by 5 Anbu that had surrounded her. She looked around to see Tsunade walk up to herself. Tsunade then turned to the fire daimyo as she bowed her head to the man as he did the same to her in show of respect. What Naruto says is true. Kushina believed that her son Naruto had become the Kyuubi no Yoko itself after the sealing. That she without regrets left the child to fend for himself in the village as she took her daughter away with her. The woman also stated that she would never return to the village if Naruto was exiled from Hai no Kuni or if that he was killed. Unfortunately, Sandame Sensei tried to convince Kasehina otherwise, but those words were on deaf ears. I, however, was under the impression that Kushina had died in childbirth and Naruto died in the sealing, until Jiraiya brought the boy with himself to get me to come back to the village. Sensei did try his best in making the boy happy with all his power, however that would also become a failure. Once the news of Naruto's death became public knowledge throughout the elemental countries, I guess Kushina saw it was best to return to the village along with her daughter to raise up in the ninja ranks. I see, and what do you have to say for yourself, Kushina-san? The daimyo said as he looked to the woman who glared at Tsunade. We are returning back to the capital, daimyo-sama, as it is not safe for you here with that thing still alive. Kushina said as looked down to the arena to see Hikari hugging her brother. I will be returning to the capital, Kasehina. As for you and your family are now banned from setting one foot in my estate, the daimyo said as he saw Kushina look at him with then turned red with anger. I will tell your family to return to Konoha after I have told them of your actions in regards with your son. Now Lady Tsunade, would you be as kind as to lending me some of your anbu as my guards back home? It would be my honor, daimyo-sama. Tsunade said as she turned to look at Naruto as he looked at his fallen opponents. Then had done his healing skill that seemed to far surpass her very own. She then turned to the angry redhead that was left behind by the daimyo. This time, Kushina, you are not leaving the village again, just for your own selfishness, and my son will be a far better person than you ever could have been. For your sake I hope that Naruto will forgive you for your sins, as I think that your other family members will not be so forgiving. Few hours later, Ichiraku's Naruto along with Hikari both found themselves to be liking ramen, only with different flavors. With Naruto liking the one that was made especially made for himself, in which Hikari was amazed to know he had his own special. She also went on to talk about how he was bailed to use his protecting jutsus in the match against the Rookie 9 with Team Guy. Those skills will be with me until my demise, or should I also father children I will pass it on to them. Naruto shrugged it off, which he then looked to Hikari, who had her head down looking at her empty bowl. Do you hate me, Oni-san, for growing with Ka-san, while you had to live alone? Naruto looked to his twin as he closed his eyes in deep thought on what he should say. If you had prior knowledge of me and what father had done to save the village, would you see what Kasehina-san had saw? Hikari looked up to her brother, then shook her head instantly at what he had said. Never, you're my Oni-san and I would never see you as such. The red-headed Uzumaki said confidently to her brother. I'm sorry I almost killed you using that Kaiden Jutsu Ni-san. Naruto then looked to his twin, then smiled happily at her. For once in his life it was a real smile. There is nothing to be said for forgiveness, Hikari, and you too, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto said as Kakashi had finally came to make his presence known. I am sorry, Naruto, I really tried my best in my searches for you. Kakashi said as he was trying to be forgiven for not trying harder to look for the silver-haired teen. I shall repeat again, there is nothing that you two have done to seek my forgiveness. Naruto said as he stood up from his stool. However, there is one thing I wish from you, Kakashi. The Junin then looked at him as he saw this as a chance to make up for his past failures. What is it I can do for you? Help make my sister as strong or rather stronger than her mother is. Naruto said as he saw his former Junin sensei looked at him with his eye widen and only to give him an eye smile. Hitaki Kakashi, Uzumaki Hikari and Uzumaki Naruto, Hokage-sama wants to see you. Said a cat face Anbu who they could tell it was a woman from her voice, then left in a swirl of leaves. Well, might as well go see what Tsunade-sama wants. Kakashi said as he stood up from his seat followed by the two Uzumakis until Naruto stopped. Who's going to pay for the meal? Well, don't big brothers always treat their younger siblings? Hikari asked as she gave Naruto puppy eyes. Mama, I do believe Hikari-chan does have a point, Naruto. Agreed the one-eyes Junin, as Naruto gave an annoyed sigh. Don't worry about it, Naruto-kun. It's on the house seeing as how you back home now. Ayame said as her father agreed with her, which Naruto thanked them kindly, even though with his face not looking like he cared, for the meal. Let us see what Okawa-san wishes of us. Naruto said as he referred to Tsunade as his mother, then grabbed both Hikari and Kakashi on the shoulders, as they had vanished. Tsunade-sama, I would like to know the nature of this summons? Naruto asked the blonde Kage as he had just appeared along with Kakashi and his sister by his side. Hearing Naruto's voice come from nowhere had caused Tsunade to jump slightly as she had not expected him to instantly appear before herself. Gaki, wait to be let in my office, yelled Tsunade as she took a few moments to calm herself back to normal. Naruto, the fire daimyo has asked that I let some of my Anbu to escort him back to his home. In which I agreed to let some of my Anbu escort him back and to be a second escort to the Uzumaki clan. Naruto had not said anything to his Tsunade as his eyes showed nothing of his emotions or anything for that matter. Kakashi had stepped up to speak for his former pupil. I am going on and guessing that you wish for my team along with Naruto, will help in the escort mission. Correct, because of such things I cannot help but feel that an old war hawk would like to take the said opportunity. After the test of Naruto's was over, Danzo had come up with me with a few members of the council, demanding that I should hand Naruto over to Danzo, in hopes of bettering him for the village. Hokage-sama, if this is true in what you are saying, then he will try something in getting one of our family members. With the thought of them having the same power Oni-san showed? Hikari asked with her voice on edge of fear, or rather it was fear. Yes, it is exactly what you are saying, Hikari, Tsunade said while closing her eyes as the wind had blown in from the open window. Dispel, Naruto said as he looked up on the ceiling to see a pair of unfamiliar Anbu with the symbol of root on their masks. Swiftly Naruto had summoned his red-bladed rapier to him and had stuck the unknown Anbu in certain areas to immobilize them. These Anbu masks very different than the ones you have, Tsunade-sama. Naruto said as he pried the mask off one of the fallen men, then handed the mask over to the busty Kage who had a scowl on her face. Root Anbu, Tsunade exclaimed as she was being spied on by Danzo. Anbu, Tsunade called out as her own Anbu came out. Take these people to Ibiki and Anko, for some information on why I am being spied on. The Anbu then shined away with the two spies of Danzo's. I have come to believe that, our objective orders have been slightly altered due to this account, Tsunade-sama. Naruto said as he looked to Tsunade, whom nodded her head a reply. Then I will take my leave once the team I am accompany for this mission is within the safety of loyal Konoha nins. What is the specified time for our departure? Be ready in 3 hours to prepare. And Naruto, these are you traveling slips that you have won. Tsunade said as Naruto walked over to Medic Kage, then took his papers. I believe that if you are to use the Kage Bushin Jutsu, your problem shall be lessened. Naruto said as he started to walk out of the office along with Kakashi and Hikari as he walked on, then vanished before them. A few seconds after Naruto had left from their sight, the two had heard Suande cursing up a storm in her office. Konoha Hotel. The moment Naruto had appeared in his room for a few days of his return, he had decided to take a shower to get the dirt off his body. Of course he had decided to try on one of the other pair of clothes that Lucretia made for him back in the lab. After he had gotten finished with his shower, the silver-haired swordsman then got dressed for his mission. A.N. Cloud's clothes from FFVII Advent Children. Naruto had looked himself over, then had summoned the main base sword in the formation of Tsurugi. He then slipped in his holster on his back. After a while, knowing that he would need food for such a mission, knowing that he would find the task difficult in the matter of him being alive, Naruto of course could in fact careless about what had people thought about him in any ill way. After a few moments Naruto looked in the mirror as he had now thought of the way he looked. His whisker marks still on his face, however his eyes were that of a snake almost, which he did not find it disliking. Without any further delays in what is to be his first mission since his return, the sliver-haired Jinchuriki left his room. 3 hours front gate. Once he had gathered what he needed, which was food that had what he needed, rather than what people said they wanted. When he had entered the stores to get his needed supplies for his mission, Naruto found himself in attempts of being thrown out or overpriced. However, with a few words from his mouth, the people who ran the said establishments had decided to let him buy what he needed without being overpriced. Mostly due to fear, as he had reminded them that he was no longer a weak child that he used to be, and now Sandame's law was back in motion. Now here he is at the front gate with Hikari also waiting for her sensei, along with the other members being of Team Kakashi. After some time of waiting, Naruto had spotted two people coming to them, one being a short black-haired person, while the other he knew daintily. It was his former pink-haired teammate who looked to be more frightened with each step she took toward the siblings. The moment Naruto locked eyes with her, she practically looked away with all the willpower she had left in her. Haruno Sakura, Naruto said in a voice that seemed empty of any kind of emotion, but was cold at the same time. Hi, Sakura replied as it was more like a yelp. Consider my vow to bring the Uchiha back alive withdrawn from this point on. For he shall meet his demise at my hands, as I will take what he values more away from him. Sometime later, the group of Anbu who were escorting the fire daimyo back to him home along with Team Kakashi, plus Naruto himself. They had decided to walk on the trail as he could not risk being ambushed from anyone, so being in the open was the best option. While Naruto had agreed to the risk of the said option that Kakashi had gave, it had made no real difference to himself, as any method of attack against himself would prove useless. Naruto-san, I had seen the match to test your abilities earlier today, and I must say that I am most impressed with you. The daimyo said as he looked to the said person, made everyone look as well. I do not in any way want to give everyone a show of arrogance, but that time I was not fighting at full power. However, should I taken the option in fight at my full strength, then I am afraid everyone within the village would have been destroyed. So my option was that I had to fight at 16% of my strength, said Naruto as everyone around him looked at him with shock at what he had revealed to them. After a few more minutes into their journey to the capital, Naruto had stopped from walking any further as he had sensed a presence. I would advise you to show yourselves or you shall suffer my wrath. Naruto called out as three people with Kumo headbands. One had red hair like Hikari's a little back her shoulder, as he had dark skin color that matched the male in the three. However, upon further inspection the team of Konoha noticed that the female had yellow eyes, while the male had dark brown eyes and also had short white hair. The two, however, were standing in the back of a shoulder-length blonde-haired woman. She had pale complexion that looked nowhere near as Hinata. She had hair that almost looked like Ino's color of blonde, but hers were brighter, as her eyes were a bit darker than Ino's as well. Explain, why you have been following us since our departure of the leaf? Naruto said coldly as he looked at the three Kumo nins. If your response is less that satisfaction, then I shall seal your fates. We have come to talk to you, Uzumaki Naruto, said the blonde leader of the group. This is my team, as you can see, that were our ninjas from Kumo, and we have not come here start trouble, only to hear us out. Very well, speak. I am Samui from Kumo, this two with me make up my team. Woman who introduced herself as Samui said as she motioned for the two behind her. We had heard that you are now an independent force of Konoha, with travel slips that are of Konoha's Sanins. You are correct with your information, however I suspect that you have not come here without a proposition. Well, there is no chance in hitting it now, said the male who stepped up from behind Samui. If you're now independent of Konoha, then that means you can travel where you please. If it's not trouble for anyone, would you mind coming to see our rakeage? I apologize, but I am entrusted with this mission given to me by the Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato to escort the daimyo of Hai no Kuni back to his home. I believe you have come here for naught, so let us be on our way now, Kakashi, said Naruto as he was about to start walking with the dark-skinned woman from Kumo had moved to hit him in the face. Seeing this, Naruto had caught her fist in his hands as he then tightened his hold, breaking the said woman's hand. Most unwise, in trying to fight an opponent whom you have no data on. I should have known Kaori would try something like this, said the male as Samui nodded her head in response. Should I go and stop her? Kaori needs to learn that she can't everything go her way, and let us take the chance as a way to gather data on his fighting style. Samui said as she watched her hurt teammate trying to fight a person who seemed to be toying with her. Besides, I don't want to be the one to carry her back, for when she loses. It's hard enough walking around with these things as they hurt my back a lot, Omoi. After watching a struggling Kaori fight a person who showed no signs of ever tiring out, Kaori then was about to make a few single-handed hand seals with her right hand. Naruto, seeing this, saw his chance as he moved in as he caught the woman's neck in his left hand, as he started to lift her up from the ground. The silver-haired teen started to tighten his grip around the girl, as he did not let go of her until he saw her eyes rolled behind her head. Only then he released the Kaori as he watched her fall to the ground unconscious. Naruto then looked over to the other two, as he saw them flinch in fear of his gaze as if they saw a being far worse than Shinigami himself. I would suggest you two not to try to attempt to take where she had left off, Naruto said as he turned around to see everyone else stare at him. Let us be on our way, Daimyo-sama. Oh, of course, said the daimyo as the team began to walk on back to the capital. Don't you think that was a little too much, Naruto-kun? Lucretia said as she had watched with Kyuubi with a screen inside his mind. You probably gave that girl a nightmare that she will never wake up from. I will have no tolerance for people who wish harm upon me, Lucretia, Naruto thought to the woman who was now a guest within his mind. For too long, I have had to suffer beatings at what people believe on what should happen or make me do. Well, that all ended 3 years ago, this time I will not suffer that a second time. Well, I can't blame you honestly, Kit, Kyuubi chimed in as she wanted to make herself known. Like you said, you should not have to be violently made to agree with someone anymore. The mission was not that long as it was somewhat an escort mission to the capital of Hai no Kuni, while Naruto looked completely indifferent. As they had waited for the rest of Hikari's family to come out, as she went inside the capital with the daimyo at his side, while the team waited. Kakashi sat on the stone steps as he started to read his book, while Sakura was pacing back and forth. Sai had just stood real still, with that fake smile on his face, while watching Sakura. Naruto on the other hand was leaned against a tree with his eyes closed. After a few hours, Naruto had then gotten up from where he was leaning against as he turned around to see Hikari, with the rest of the Uzumaki family. Kakashi got up from the steps as he put his book away, then stood beside Naruto in case something were to happen. However, nothing had happened as the silver-haired teen turned his back on what he would have called his fellow kin. Oni-san, wait up, I got to introduce, Hikari said as she ran up to her brother as he turned around with his eyes slightly glowing more so than before. Hikari, I have grown up alone throughout my life, this family you have, Naruto said as he looked back the 17 people in the back. It is your family, as Okawa-san has made it very clearly that I am not a part of it. Wait, said a voice that had an elderly woman to it. You said Okawa-san, did you not? She asked as Naruto nodded his head yes, when the elder Uzumaki walked up to him and placed her hand on his face. I see you are the one whom Kushina spoke with so much disgust. Dear boy, you have to known that we can let you back into the clan despite. I am not Uzumaki Naruto, Uzumaki-sama. I am just Naruto, said the silver-haired swordsman as he began to walk on the trail again back to Konoha. The elder Uzumaki along with the people among her family watched the young ninja start to walk, only for Kakashi to come up behind them. Naruto had changed during the time he had went missing from the village. He no longer thinks of himself as he used to. At least after he found out the truth of his mother abandoning him, because he is a Jinchuriki. He is a Jinchuriki, said the elder as she kept her gaze upon the Naruto. Yes, a life that is full of pain and lies. At times I do think that he had delved further into darkness, that Sasuke his former best friend could never survive. I dare say that, in all my years of protecting him when he was not able to protect himself. I wonder who is the real demon of the village, the ones who beat or done him wrong or those that just leave a child to fend for himself. Everyone, cover the Uzumaki family now. Naruto said calmly as everyone got into place as shurikens came from the trees, only to be deflected. Just then Root Anbu had shown themselves to the Uzumaki clan with their escorts surrounding them. By order of Danzo-sama, you're to hand over the Uzumaki clan to us. A rat-face Anbu said as he with 19 Root Anbu behind him which included himself. You have attacked, ninjas of Konoha, therefore your lives are forfeited to me, said Naruto as he stepped forward as he brought his sword out from his holster. Sloga, Naruto whispered as small shock wave went through the entire area affecting everyone except himself. Naruto then ran forward as the very slow-moving Root Anbu brought their hands up or trying to, so they could make their hand seals. Naruto then dealt each one of them killing blows to each member of the attackers. Once he had turned around he noticed that Sai looked to be moving slowly to attempt to take one of the Uzumaki family members away from the group. Naruto then dispelled his magic spell as he had Sai in a strong hold, as the said ninja looked at the silver-haired teen look at him with unreadable fury. Why are you attempting to take away one of the people of this clan? Naruto said in a calm voice that had some traces of anger within the words. Sai not sure on what he should do at the very moment with a seal imprinted on his tongue to keep him from talking about Danzo. Naruto thinking that he was not going to give information was about to extract it from him through other means. However the moment Sai had opened his mouth he had seen the seal on the boy's tongue. He then let go of the new member of Team Kakashi. Sakura then chose this moment to voice her opinions at her former teammates' actions towards Sai. Naruto no baka, she screeched as she came forwards with a chakra-enhanced punch to strike the sliver-haired teen. Only for it to be caught in the said target's hand with ease. What do you think you're doing, you insect? Said Naruto as his eyes shifted to her own eyes which earned him a look of fear coming off her. He then leaned closer to her so only she can hear. I have not forgotten what you had done to me at the Valley of the End and remember this. Your life is now in my grasps. He then let go of her hand not before breaking 3 of her fingers, after that he then turned to a tied-up Sai. Dispel, Naruto whispered as a purple orbs of light flashed around Sai's entire body from head to toe for a few seconds until it had finally stopped. I had removed the seal on your tongue. Now tell me, why were you trying to take one of the Uzumaki family members? Danzo-sama came to a belief that if we're this strong then there is a chance that the others within the Uzumaki may also have such power. So that he can extract DNA from any member of the Uzumaki family in hopes of strengthening the rest of the Root Anbu. Sai said as his voice along with his face showed fear in what the former Uzumaki would do to him if he had not said anything. Drain, the spell that was called out from the swordsman as 3 orbs of light shot out from Sai's body, only to go within the caster of the spell. Naruto then watched Sai become unconscious from having most of his strength being taken out from him. I believe the best option is to quicken our return back to Konohagakure no Sato, Kakashi-san. The trip back to the village was very quiet for the most part with the exception of Hikari talking with some of her family members. Even trying to get Naruto to join in a few conversations in which he had said little to nothing. Of course most of the other Uzumaki clan were very interested in what the long-lost son of Kushina had been doing. The moment they had walked into the front gate Naruto then gave side to Kakashi as he himself walked off in another direction. With Naruto found himself in his walk for a bit to clear his mind from Todi's event on his new mission for the village. He had ignored the stares he had gotten from people around him. However, he was also stopped by a few shinobis who came up to with an offer of hoping to go on missions together one day. With Naruto only saying a few words for an answer to these people, do as you desire. Then continued on his walk. However, he was soon stopped in his walk as he felt a life force with a faint trace for him to follow. He then decided to follow the trail to lead it back to its source. Until he found himself standing before the hospital of the believed to be Great Village. It was then that he knew this life force before. He then vanished from where he stood, much like the same ghostly manner he had been doing for a little while now. He then reappeared in an spikel-looking hospital room, and from the looks of it, it looked to be a private room for the matter. Upon further inspection, as he saw a clipboard that looked to show the person's health status. Naruto had read the information of the person who was wounded when found, but due to shock they had slipped into a coma. The winged nightmare then slipped the clipboard into one of his larger pockets as he walked to the person on the bed. Lucretia, is there a possibility to bring this person out from her coma? Naruto thought as he knew the two roommates were watching everything that was going on with their host. There is a chance to get her into normal health back at the laboratory, and in her current condition she will not last the week if you don't hurry. But even so, we need to get her there. Good thing the lab is a place you have knowledge of. So you can teleport yourselves there from your current location, Lucretia said as she had finished what she needed to say to her host. Naruto then began to unhook some of the medical tubes from the woman's arms carefully from her arms. He then picked her up from the bed bridal style as he heard someone talking in the hall. Taking that as his signal, Naruto along with the comatose woman had vanished from the spot in the hospital seconds before the person saw them. She's gone, said a nurse as she looked around the room only for two rude Anbu to come through the door. Danzo-sama is not going to be pleased when he hears that Uchiha Makoto is now fully awake. Lab. Naruto then appeared in the lab as he held the sleeping Uchiha, who looked to not age a single day since he first met her. To him she was an angel who had saved him from a terrible beating on his 6th birthday by asking Sandaime to take him a little way outside the village. She had been lucky in saying that it was a bit of a mission, so that her husband Fugaku could not interfere nor the rest of the Uchiha clan could not trail her. To very rare that knew her best, Makoto was a downright strong enough to rival the Red Death Uzumaki Kushina to a draw. However, her major secret that was only known by Sandaime himself was that Makoto had already had a fully developed Sharingan, as well as somehow unlocking Maginkyu Sharingan without the price of killing her best friend. However, she had to hide everything when the Uchiha elders said to her that she was to marry Fugaku. She knew going to Sandaime was not going to help her any, as well as leaving the village was not an option. To say that she was disgusted was a bit of an understatement, since she had just turned 17 at the time and was up for a captain's seat in Anbu. Her seer had been forcibly taken away from her. It was not that she did not love her two sons, she just did not like Fugaku, period. Naruto-kun, you're going to have to undress her and place her into the tank that is on your left, Lucretia said as she watched Naruto did as she told him. Alright, I am going to have to take over from here. Alright, then, Naruto said as he closed his eyes for a short moment, then opened them as Lucretia had now taken control to look over the sleeping Uchiha's status. Hey, how come I never get to take over, Naruto-kun? Pouted the great fox, who was now in her human form while sobbing behind the cage as Naruto leaned against one of the bars. Would you not do any harm to any living person or thing if I do? To this the Kitsune Vixen irked back a little. No. Yeah, that's right, I wouldn't do a thing. She smiled at her warden, who raised a brow. Can't blame a girl for trying, right? Yes, I believe I can, since you seem to enjoy to see destruction on a massive level. I'll have you know that I have other things that I enjoy. Okay, you too, if you would be so kind as to stop talking, I can do my work here, Lucretia said as she looked over the computers in the laboratory as it went through Makoto's body conditions. Well, this a bit strange. What is it, Lucretia? Naruto said as he saw his body looking over the computers. For some reason she looks to be in a state of walking up, however something seems to be keeping her from doing such. Will it be a problem? Well, you might be able to go into her subconsciousness to free her from whatever it is that is causing such a methods of keeping her in a comatose state. However, there is a danger that your mind may be crushed from within hers, leaving your body in similar state as hers is. Very well, does this facility have the required equipment to restore her to full health? I am afraid not, as this lab needs more equipment to do so. However, there is another lab that does. I will bring it up on the map for you, said Lucretia as she began to type everything she needed as a hologram map displayed itself for Naruto as he looked at it. There is one near Sungakure no Sato. Is my transport still ready? Hi. Lucretia then closed her host's eyes for a few seconds as they opened again to show the S-littled pupil to show that the silver-haired teen was back in control. Naruto then walked into the other room as he looked at his new means of getting around the elemental countries for a while. He had taken the sleeping Uchiha out of the tube, then began to dress her in more suitable clothes for her. And think of Tifa's clothes from Advent Children, only with the black shirt open with a white tank top of the original game. Naruto then sealed his new bike as into a scroll which he had layered to seal items from Jiraiya when they went to look for Tsunade. He then teleported himself with Makoto just 6 miles outside the village in the forest. He then lay the sleeping woman down on the ground gently as he possibly could, as he was then going to bring his bike out, only to hear voices in the distance. He then looked down to Makoto, who looked peaceful in her sleep for a few moments, then silently followed the voices. He then came to a stop as he saw one of the people whom he had detested the most, as he met him one time in a council meeting with Sandame. He had came to Sandame requesting that he be turned over to him along with Sarutobi's former teammates at his side. At the time, Naruto understood a little bit what was going on between the two war heroes of the Second Shinobi War. You must reach on of Orochimaru's lair and pass along the information that I have given you. Failure is not an option. Danzo said as he then turned away from his rude Anbu. Hi, Danzo-sama, the bull-masked Anbu said as he turned to leave. Naruto, not liking what he was seeing with this man as he knew there had to be something going on, he had decided to go back to Makoto to follow the Anbu. Sometime in the night on the border of Hai no Kuni, the rude bull-masked Anbu kept going his pace to conserve energy in his travel in hopes to complete his mission without any interruptions from any outside force. What looked to be a safe journey to Otogakure no Sato was soon halted as a flashes of light had came out from nowhere in the darkness. The Anbu attempted to avoid the flashes of light that were heading right for him, only to be killed by that traveled through him within seconds. The man did not even have enough time to scream as his limbs tore away in sections from his body and fell to ground as blood sprayed from his dismembered limbs. Naruto had emerged from the darkness with his newly Mako-infused eyes glowing as he walked over to the torso of the man he killed. He then reached inside of the armor as he pulled out a file of which he had come to guess that Danzo gave him. Naruto then took the file as he placed it within his pockets as he turned around to leave. It had not taken long for him to come upon Makoto again. He then placed a hand on her cheek. Soon you will awaken again, Naruto said as his voice was still cold, but his eyes showed some warmth. He then unsealed his new bike as he for some reason called it a new name. Time to go Fenrir. He kick-started it after he put the Uchiha matriarch on the back and made it so she would not fall off, then rode off into the night. Back in Konohagakure no Sato, one Uzumaki Kushina found herself sitting before the head of her clan with anger in the clan head's eyes. However, Kushina had looked very confused as to why the clan head had such fury in her eyes and came to the conclusion that the demon brat may have done something. But those thoughts had been rudely when Uzumaki Chie had gotten up from her seat in the home of Kushina and slapped her in the face. I must say that a woman who is as strong as you were could become so heartless toward one of her own children, Kushina, spoke the elder of the Uzumaki clan as she looked down on the Red Death. Now I want to understand is why you had abandoned your own son. That thing is not my son, Chie-samam, but the Kyuubi no Yoko itself in a human body. Kushina spat out toward her own clan head, whom then looked at the Red Death like she had grown an extra head. From the way you speak about Naruto, whom he had cut his ties with the rest of his family, Chie said as she looked out the window of their new home in Konoha. And from what I was told of Kakashi on Naruto's life after you had abandoned him, without so much as telling the clan of him, I am very impressed on how the young swordsman was able to survive so much torture from a village that his father risked so much to save, only to have that same village disrespect his wishes. Just like the woman he married secretly, I just wonder who is the true demon of the village. The people of the village who had nothing but hate toward the Naruto, or the mother whom abandoned him to hopefully die for something he had no control of. Kushina let out a growl just as she was about to say more, only to have Chie glare at her. I do wonder how you plan to face off against Naruto, should he feel the urge to challenge you. Because the way that young man had defeated not only a team of Kumo Nens, but also had fought off some Anbu that used to be of Danzo's own security force, all this without showing any sign at being in full power. What, you mean he killed, rude Anbu? Said Kushina, who had a look of surprise which then had turned into fear as she looked up to see her family. However, her vision then soon darkened as flames had taken over everything around the area, and soon a figure had started to take shape within the flames. The figure then began to walk toward herself. She had tried to get a look on the figure if only the heat was not hurting her eyes. The Red Death then found herself at the figure's feet as if her body was being submissive toward this person's mere presence. "Kunshina?" Chie said as she saw the woman blink a few times from her daze. "Are you alright? You look to be in a trance of some kind." "I'm fine," Kushina said as she walked out the room. "We are not done yet, little girl." Chie spoke in a voice that gave the Red Death a shiver. However, what she had seen just was a downright nightmare. "Now sit down. You are to be on house arrest until Naruto himself will voice his opinion on what to do with you. Seeing as you took it upon yourself to decide his future, I think it would fair if you were to decide your own future." "You can't do this," Kushina yelled as she looked to her own clansmen shared a look of disgust. "I can and will. However, to make sure you do not try to leave," Chie said as she then went through a long chain of hand seal, while two of her clansmen held Kushina down. Just then pale blue glowing chains came from the elderly woman's hands as they had kunai ends of the said chain. The chains then sped at Kushina as she struggled to break free, only for the chains to embody her, leaving no wounds as one would think. After a few moments the chains retracted back to Chie as she stood up from where she sat and looked down on Kushina, who looked a bit drained. "I have reduced your chakra to that of a genin fresh from the academy here, and know that you will get your chakra back when your estranged son returns." A couple of days later with Naruto. Naruto now sitting on a chair looking over some holographic maps of the entire world. But only settled on the elemental nations for the time being as he looked at 8 markers in different locations. Deep within his body, Naruto found himself thinking over those that also shared his fate as a Jinchuriki, and the fact that they were being hunted down like animals did not sit well with him at all. As much as it upset him, he could not allow his growing displeasure to cloud his judgment. Right now he was looking at 2 lights that were the closest to his current location. "You seem troubled, Naruto-kun," said a soft, gentle voice from behind himself as he kept his gaze on the map. "What would give you such an impression?" said Naruto as he did not take his eyes off the map. "Well, the fact that you have not been looking at the map with such a serious look on your face for a full day gave that answer," said the person behind him. "You want to save those that share your fate, don't you?" "I would be denying the truth should I answer your question by saying no," said the silver-haired swordsman as he then started to look on the other lands that were very untouched by the elemental countries. "However, even if I were to save them all from their fates of being hunted down, I would have no place safe to put them." "I see. Even if you were to find them all, you would not be able to place them in a village, because they would be seen as monsters rather than human beings." "Indeed, however, during my 3 years of slumber I had made plans in one of the open lands in the east," Naruto said as he typed in a few 3D keys. Then the hologram map rose as it turned into a screen as it went blank for a few seconds, only to not too slowly show tons of small red circular discs with 4 legs going around making buildings. "What are you having them do, Naruto?" said the woman. "These machines are building a new home, Makoto-san," Naruto replied. "You know, every time you say my name like that, it make me feel old," Makoto said as she looked at the man who had brought back into the living world. "It makes me feel older than I feel now. Originally our new home would have taken 10 years or 15 at top speed." "Oh, okay. So why is the new home looking more complete ahead of time?" Makoto asked as she watched Naruto typed in a few more keys and showed some strange-looking, almost reptilian people working alongside the machines. "What are they?" "These people are called bangas," Naruto said as he watched the people along with the small machines working together in peace. "I do not have any information on how they came to be, nor will I pursue such. All I know is that in the first year of my slumber, Lucretia had spoke to me within my consciousness about these people who made contact with my machines and the bangas." Naruto had told Makoto all about his encounter with Lucretia Crescent, who had given them both Mako infusion treatment. Though she did have to thank the woman for bringing her back from her coma. She was then told about what had happened with her son Sasuke, who had defected the village of Konoha. If one was to say that a mother's fury had no bounds, then Naruto would be the first witness to confirm that claim. "These people have been living as nomads with no real place to call home. My speculations tell me that they wish to stop traveling." Though that speculation had been confirmed when one of the Bangas walked up to one of the working robots and asked that if they had helped in the construction, they wished to live there. So what was your answer, or rather your answer that you gave Lucretia? See for yourself, Naruto said as he typed in a few more commands, and the screen showed not only that Bangas, but a few stranger-looking people that were working on a few things in the small town, as well as normal-looking people. Some looked like to be very large in body size, as the size of a human, and almost looked like a pig. Naruto had called them Seek, seeing as they called themselves that. Another was a dark-skinned woman that looked normal enough, if their long ears had not stood put along with pointed fingernails. These people had called themselves Vieira. Most that are helping the construction wore white revealing outfits. The last were a bit odd even for Naruto himself, though he knew that without these people's help, the soon-to-be new home would not be done faster than what was originally planned out. The looked to be small teddy bears or rabbits from their looks, as they had made different shades of fur on themselves separately. They also had bat-like wings. What stood out was a small red ball that hung above their own heads from antenna. Even Makoto found herself one to hold on in her arms. Naruto had told her that they called themselves Mughals, which made the woman squeal at the name. These Mughals are very skilling in making construction plans, and as you can see, these people are happy. Naruto said as a ghostly smile started to form on his lips. The people here will never see the horrors of the shinobi nations. It misery brought forth by a man who is looked to as a myth, however he was the one who brought this chaos. Makoto then closed her eyes as she knew whom he was talking about. The Rikuodu no Sennin, she said as she saw Naruto nod his head, then something came to her mind. May I ask you something? What is your question? Well, with all the technology here to use at your command, why not building a village with it instead of a town, or as it looks kingdom? You can see it too, right? Naruto said as he had finally taken his eyes away from the screen. Those people there are living happily without the use of the technology, really, with the exception of the small robots. If we're to make any attempts on doing what you had suggested, then all or the most powerful shinobi villages will attack and try to learn the secrets in order to strengthen themselves. The world is not ready. No, shouldn't never have this technology. Then why are you using it? So I shall bring an end to the shinobi era, and after that I will destroy its technology along with any records that can be traced back to the shinobi era. Just then an alarm had gone off, startling Makoto somewhat, as she had now been sitting on the left arm of the chair as she fell on the floor. Naruto then began to type up what was going on with one of his surveillance machine he had placed at Suna. The second he had finished typing, the screen quickly showed Gaara, fighting of an Akatsuki member in the sky. The two had then started to get everything ready for the upcoming battle with the two Akatsuki members. However, Naruto then stopped as he came out with Fenrir at the holographic entrance that showed as a stone wall. He then got off the bike as he opened the sides that revealed 3 swords on each side that made a total of 6. The silver-haired teen then started to put 3 of the swords together as it made a single sword on their own. He then placed the other 3 on his holster that is on his back. Makoto, I need you to track the nearest Jinchuriki that is discovered in Tori no Kuni, and do not worry, the Fenrir has the same tracking device on its dashboard. Naruto said as he was going to get ready to see Gaara. Hi, you be careful, Naruto-kun. Makoto said as she then started the Fenrir and head off northwest in Kase no Kuni, while Naruto had ascended into the air and flew off to Suna. Konoha. Tsunade had finished some of her paperwork, which she was now sitting on a couch in the office as she drank some sake. While 3 of her cage bushins had decided to look over some missions that Naruto could do when he got back. However, just then a woman with short brown hair came into the office with a troubled look on her face. Tsunade immediately knew this was person is Eureka on of Konoha's top message decoder. I am over here, Tsunade said as the woman had told her an emergency message came in from Suna, and then she handed the message to the Godem. She then started to read the letters slowly for a few moments, only to grip the scroll tightly as she read on, then stomped her foot down as she went over to her desk. Shizune. Hi, get me Team Kakashi here immediately. Tsunade ordered as she wasithed her acid and ran out at full speed. She gritted her teeth. Akatsuki had finally started to make their move. After a few minutes later, Team Kakashi had finally came in through the door with, however they had seen that Kiba was with the team at the moment. Seeing as Sai was taken off the team because of his involvement with taking the Uzumaki clan straight to Danzo, and as for the master of the route Anbu himself was now in a cell. As for Sai himself, he was currently being guarded by Anbu from the Hokage personal guards. "Tsunade-sama, has something come up?" Hikari asked as she looked to the Godem who actually got along with her. "Akatsuki has captured the cage for you all know he is a Jinchuriki like Hikari's twin brother," Tsunade said as she along with everyone looked toward the red head. Hearing this made everyone, but Kakashi tense as he had known what the organization was doing as he was told from Jiraiya. However, they had yet to uncover what they want from capturing the Jinchuriki to this date. Sakura on the other hand just showed pure annoyance in her face. Shouldn't Suna's own ninjas be tracking down their own monster? Sakura said, not even caring where she was as she remembered what Naruto was as well. Besides, they had it coming toward themselves in allowing a demon to become their cage in the first place. Honestly, Naruto would only bring our village to ruin if he were allowed to stay here any longer. Akatsuki would go through any means to capture him, so he must be banished as soon as he returns. That is all I can take from you, Sakura, Tsunade said as she lifted the pink-haired girl by the collar of her shirt as she raised her fist, only to be stopped by the door opening. That is enough, Tsunade, the voice of Hiyashi said as he came in the Hokage's office along with the other clan heads of the Shinobi Council excluding the Nara and Akamichi clans. Haruno Sakura has proved her case with Uzumaki Naruto's status being a Jinchuriki, Tsunade-sama. So in other words, you are just trying to save your own hides, Tsunade said as she looked on to the members of the clan heads. Inuzuka Sume then stepped forward glaring at the Hokage. That demon Brad is too much of a wild card who shows no loyalty toward anyone in this village, and usually those type of people are not suited for our honorable village. Are you really saying that he is not loyal to this village, or rather he is not loyal toward you people? The blonde cage shot back toward the clan heads as they scowled at her words. Usually, when there is weakness in the hive, we take this weakness to be terminated, so that the hive will be able to live on, Aburame Shibi said. The Uzumaki also seems to be very unstable as we had seen in the area, that was to test his strength, Inoichi said as he too added his thoughts into the talks. That is why for the safety of the village. However, I saw from the medical reports that Tsunade herself had done over his opponents showed no fatal blows of any kind, Nara Shikaku said as he came from behind them along with Akamichi Shuza. In fact, the only one who had suffered at the hands of Naruto was indeed the Chunin who believes we should banish or exile the boy. What I want to know is what is it that Haruno Sakura here has done to incite his wrath towards her? Everyone then looked to Sakura, who started to sweat bullets at the people who were now looking at her as they were still in the dark on the events of the Valley of the End. The next day everyone who had involvement with Naruto's test of strength had gathered at my house to talk about the former blonde on how strong he had gotten. It was there that Naruto came to my clan house as I let him inside and gave everyone a formal apology for hurting them, isn't that right, Sakura? Shuza said as he looked toward the pink-haired Chunin. Hi, she said grudgingly. Why are you defending him, Shikaku, Shuza? Inoichi demoned. Because we have faith in the Yondaime when he chose Naruto to be the Jinchuriki, Shikaku said as he looked toward his friend. Everyone in his age group has forgiven him for his actions during the match. But what about his words on killing the Uchiha should he ever encounter him? Yelled Sume as those who were against the blonde nodded their heads. Sasuke made his choice too when he clearly knew the consequences of defecting the village, Tsunade said as she sat back down on her chair. Are you telling me that I should give the brat a slap on the wrist for siding with Orochimaru on the day of the retrieval mission that nearly caused the deaths of 6 of our ninjas? But the Sharingan, Inoichi said. You people want Naruto banished so much, then I will make it into a match at the arena again, Tsunade said as she looked at what was left of her council pale in fear. Should Naruto win in the match, then he is free to stay or leave in the village. The clan heads looked toward each other for a moment, then agreed with the decision of the match, only for Tsunade to smirk at them. However, should he decide to leave the village, and if anyone that wants to go with Naruto, may choose so without being labeled a missing nin or anything else. She then turned her attention toward Teen Kakashi, who looked at her in shock. What are you still doing here? Get moving to Suna, now. With Kankuro. Kankuro now found himself fighting Suna's own missing nin Akasuna no Sasori, who is now dodging attack by the Mont's tail. The puppet youth then saw the tail coming at him with so much speed that he would not be able to dodge it at all. Kankuro then held his hands out in case there were any traps within the tail itself. However, that thought soon came to an end as he saw flashes of silver light go through the tails and broke it into so many pieces. The two nins looked everywhere to find where the attack had came from. However, when Sasori looked up, he saw a light descending upon him fast. Quickly had jumped out of the Hiriko puppet to avoid his oncoming death at seemingly unstoppable attack as it destroyed the Hiroku completely, leaving nothing behind. Kankuro then looked up in the direction on where the attack had came from and saw a teen with silver hair floating above their battle. The silver-haired teen then came down from where he was as he landed next to Kankuro with a large sword in his hand. It has been 3 years since we last met in the Chunin exams, Sabku no Kankuro, said Naruto as he kept his gaze on the cloaked figure of Sasori as Kankuro wanted to get a good look at his savior. Who are you and why are you speaking of the Chunin exams 3 years ago? Kankuro asked as he did not ever once met this person until he heard a very low and dark chuckle come from the person. I understand that in your memory of those past events, my physical form had been very different, said Naruto as he did not take his eyes off of the Akatsuki member. My body had tan skin as my hair was blonde that was spiky, and I was also known to you for defeating your brother when he unleashed Ichibi no Shukaku. Hearing this information had sent the puppet user's mind to kick into his memories as he knew the details thanks to his elder sister Tamari. Uzumaki Naruto, is it really you? I had severed all ties that came with the name of Uzumaki once I returned to Konoha again, and your memory does serve you well in coming to the conclusion of my identity. So you are the Kyuubi no Jinchuriki that was reported by one of our members, Sasori said as he took off a piece of the cloak that was on his Hiriko puppet that is covering his face. I would assume that the member in question is Uchiha Itachi, correct? Replied the Naruto as his slitted eyes continued to stare off into Sasori, making him doubt himself. Protect, Naruto said as a green sphere formed around both Kankuro and himself. Kankuro, it would benefit your safety to return to Suna at once. Oi, Naruto, you can't beat this guy alone as he is also a puppet user like myself and defeated me without even trying, protested Kankuro as he knew that they would have a chance if they worked together. I want you to return to find a means to fight with me on this battle, said Naruto as he turned back and looked at the Suna nin from the corner of his eyes. Alright, just try to hold him back for me to come with backup and be careful too, Kankuro said as he started to run back to Suna as he left Naruto to fight alone. Sasori then used the bladed end of the Hiriko's tail to attack the fleeing Suna nin as Naruto let the attack keep going as he did not take his eyes off the puppet master. However, the bladed tail then bounced off from the nin as it was 2 feet away from his body. Kankuro had stopped as he looked on with shock at not being stabbed by the attack. Kankuro, hurry if we are to rescue your brother from Akatsuki, Naruto said as his voice made the puppet user run from the battle. You just wanted him out of the way, didn't you? Sasori said with his look at the swordsman. He would only be a liability as I will not be able to properly fight you at your full strength, replied Naruto as his voice was low and uncaring. However, I do have a question for you as you share the same status of a certain ninja I am wanting to meet. Oh, and who might that be? Orochimaru, Naruto answered. Once I have learned where his location is, the sooner I can sever Uchiha Sasuke's head. Sasori then took out a scroll as it said Sandame on it with large kanji on it. Seeing this made Naruto want to know what the missing nin was up to. You have destroyed my Hiriko, so I will face you with my personal favorite puppet that I am most proud of. Sasori then unsealed his puppet to reveal the Sandame cage that floated above his body. Sasori then started to fight the swordman with his puppet of the mission cage that had vanished from the village of Sanagakure no Sato. However, the moment he started to use his poisonous blade weapons on the puppet's right arm had then became a nightmare to himself. Naruto's protect spell was still in effect at the time, making the man unsure of his fighting methods as they were being deflected back from the teen's barrier. Deciding to change tactics, Sasori wanted to switch to poison gas, but knew that it would kill the Jinchuriki in the process. Which Akatsuki needed him alive to extract the Biju he carried, but in the puppet master's mind was a very different story altogether. For every time he had launched an attack on the Jinchuriki in which to only fail at every worst turn, he saw the teen look at him with eyes that showed disappointment at his battle skills. Seeing this caused Sasori to fill with rage as he decided to abandon his purpose to capture the Kyuubi brat and kill him for looking at him like a failure. Enough of this, Naruto said with a voice that rang out in a ration of his opponent's battle skills as he was about to put another spell to use, only to see that the puppet master's life force came from his chest. Naruto then decided to scan his opponent to find what this meant to as a mean to defeat the puppet master. Upon the scan he was shown that Sasori's life force is centered into a spot on his chest where something was written in blood. Naruto had proceeded to destroy his cage puppet by using another spell in his arsenal that he had gained during his sleep. Flare, commanded the swordsman as a bright orange light started to consume the puppet as it showed to be drawing power foam around itself. Sasori could do nothing but watched in amazement at what happening to his puppet as it began to glow bright with each passing second, until finally it blew up completely. Now I wish to have an answer for my question. And what would that be? Sasori asked as he knew this teen was not one to be taken lightly. What information does one as yourself have on Orochimaru? Sasori looked at the Jinchuriki with a blank emotions on his face and why the brat would want to know about the snake Sanin's location and wanted to know the reasons. Why are you seeking out Orochimaru? A simple question which in turns to leads to a simple answer. I want the head Uchiha Sasuke. I see, in that case I shall tell you only after you have defeated me first. Sighs, very well, however the moment I used this one spell on you, you will only have a lifespan of only 10 seconds before your destined death. Naruto said as he brought his hand up as it was covered in a black cloud as it had vanished within few seconds. Just then Sasori felt a great pain coming for the only section of his body that was left of his human body. He felt this weight upon himself as he also felt his own life force slipping away from him. He then put together in his mind, he was about to die in a few seconds as he looked toward the silver-haired teen. In 10 days' time, go to the Bridge of Heaven and Earth in the Kusagakure no Sato at noon. What is there waiting for me? I've got a spy working as one of Orochimaru's subordinates. We were supposed to rendezvous there, said Sasori as he felt more of his life leave him. Naruto just watched him as he died with uncaring eyes as mind had switched the puppet master with Sasori. One more question, where has your partner taken Sabaku no Gara, as I know from Itachi that your members travel in pairs? Sasori did not answer him, instead he used what little strength he had as he pointed toward the direction of the extraction point then fell to the ground dead. Seeing this Naruto looked off to the distance to where he could catch up to his objective in rescuing Gaara from hopefully not being killed until he arrived. I should leave something behind just for Kankuro to follow me, ne Kyuubi? That is a good idea and if they have sent a message to Konoha then back up to arrive. I just hope it isn't that weak-minded Banshee. Kyuubi said as she really could not take Sakura screeching. With Makoto, she kept reading the Fenrir as she looked at the tracking system on the bike as she was reaching Tori no Kuni. Just as she was reading toward her objective, she had thought to herself on one thing. Naruto-kun said the Mimeko infusion would also enhance my body to get used to my new powers. But, I did not think my S would get enhanced to this size, now men are going to stare at them. She kept thinking to herself as she rode on thinking over all the things she missed out on in the outside world. But then again all the boys used to tease me about me being flat, well now look at them. However she was then brought out of her thoughts as she signal of the Jinchuriki was becoming stronger on the scanner. Then it finally hit her, that during her entire thoughts as she rode on Fenrir the entire time she had managed to make it into Tori no Kuni in no time. After a few minutes of following the signal she had came across a man with red hair tied up into a ponytail as he had a face mask of some sorts. He wore purple kimono-type top with a matching pants and had brown waist armor around himself. Makoto looked at the scanner again as she looked toward the man whom looked back at her with confused look on his face. After a few minutes she had nodded her head to herself, then had gotten off of the Fenrir and started to walk toward the man. Anyo, you wouldn't happen to be a Jinchuriki would you? Makoto asked as she was then nearly met with a fist to her head from the man as she swiftly dodged the blow. Hey wait a minute? Oh no, you're probably here to get me into your village. Well I have to say no to a pretty face as yours. The man said, I just came here to talk to you about something WW would you please listen for a minute? She asked while dodging blows from the man. Well if you beat me then maybe I will hear what you have to say. Laughed the man as he spoke who then saw a smirk on Makoto's face. Okay, you asked for it, said Makoto as her body started to glow golden. Back with Naruto. It had been a day since Kankuro left to bring back any reinforcements of any kind to help Naruto fight off Sasori. Naruto had stood as an unmoving statue from the location on where he killed the Akatsuki member. It was when the sun had finally risen from the east that the silver-haired swordsman felt 6 presences coming toward him. He then saw his former sensei Hitaki Kakashi along with his former teammate Haruno Sakura with his twin sister Uzumaki Hikari, Team 7 Inuzuka Kiba, and beside him Kankuro with another person he did not seem familiar with. Kakashi, it seems that the fates have reunited us on this mission. Naruto said as he saw the Junin sheepishly laugh. I guess so, and it looks like you have been a bit busy here too, said the Junin as he looked around the destroyed area, especially one area that looked to be like glass due to extreme heat of some kind. What has happened here? I had fought and defeated an Akatsuki member. Naruto deadpanned the Junin as he in a low tone of voice as he looked around the area. Oni-san, you mean you single-handedly defeated a member of Akatsuki? Hikari said as she looked up from the body of Sasori with amazement. In this point of the mission, as I had foresaw in Suna asking help from Konoha, I have come to the conclusion that it has turned into a retrieval mission now. Naruto stated as he looked to where he could feel the traces of Shukaku's presence. If we are to be successful in this mission, then follow me as I can pick up where Gaara's sand trail is. Just as Naruto was about to take toward their next destination, he was stopped at the moment he had sensed killer intent. He then turned his head slightly as he then saw the elderly woman focusing her intent to kill on him personally. What are you doing? You just said that you killed this person, correct? Said the woman who Naruto looked at from the corner of his right eye. Correct, Naruto said as he saw the elderly woman's eyes filled with pain and hatred toward himself. After a few moments he then saw the old woman getting into a fighting stance as he turned around to face her. What is your concerns about me killing him? That person you had just killed was my grandson whom I have been wanting to see for so very long, and you took him away from me without so much as a shred of humanity in you. The woman said as she then started to kick toward the silver-haired swordsman. Protect, Naruto said as that same green barrier formed around his body then vanished from view. The elderly woman did not stop her attack, however once her attack was just nearing 2 feet from his body, she was thrown back. The man you once knew as your grandson had become my enemy the moment he joined Akatsuki to help hunt down Jinchuriki like animals. So I see it as one pawn that has not been taken off the field of the game, as I will proc to eliminate one after another. Naruto Baka. Have you no respect for the elderly, like Chiyo-ba-sama? Sakura said as she was instantly by the woman's side. Naruto had not said anything to Sakura as he turned his back toward her, which infuriated her more so. I can see it through your eyes, that you have indeed lost people dear to you in your life. So for that matter you have confined yourself from the world that continues to flow with the rivers of time. Like rocks in that river move forward with the rushing water, you spend your strength staying in your place of bitterness toward people who have not done ill will toward your person. Had you let yourself flow with the others have in that river of time, then perhaps you would have encountered your grandson. But no, instead he fell at my hands, who will be joined with the other members of Akatsuki. Hikari along with Kakashi stood where they were dumbfounded by the words that may have been cruel toward the elderly Suna-nin, but knew that in Naruto's logic held so much truth in every word. They were then startled by a strange ringing sound as Naruto brought a small rectangular object from his pocket. Naruto then flipped the object as it showed it had 2 said and held it to the side of his face as she spoke into it. Yes. You have. Alright, then head to Konoha and wait for my arrival. Naruto said as he pocketed his cell phone. Something wrong, Naruto? Kakashi asked as he looked at his former student. No, just meeting an old friend in Konoha after the mission is over. Naruto shrugged. We must hurry toward Gaara. Naruto began to run forward so that he could catch up with the second member of Akatsuki, as he was then followed by the other members of his Team 7 with the Suna-nins. Chiyo had not taken her hate-filled gaze off of Naruto 1 second as he kept moving forward with the sole intention to getting Gaara back. With Makoto had started to ride the Fenrir back to Konoha along with Rushi sitting in back of herself as she drove. Whom like now had been trying to hide a bit of a grin on his face. Due to holding on to Makoto in a most comfortable way, for himself really, as he was enjoying the ride to Konoha. Hey, keep it above the waistline. Makoto said as she growled at her passenger, who then moved his hand a bit on her s. You're the boss. Not there, you pervert. Makoto yelled as she nearly swerved on the ground. Do you want me to knock you out, or rather beat you within an inch of your life and take you back to Konoha? No ma, am. Rushi said as he held her waist as they drove faster. Back with Naruto. Naruto had, along with the retrieval team, found themselves facing off against Deidara of Akatsuki, who looked a bit nervous at facing the one who killed Sasori. No, he had no real problem with Sasori being killed, as it was far beyond that. Here stood a man before with eyes that showed nothing within the slitted pupil. The more the Akatsuki continued to stare into those eyes, the more he could feel death's hands reaching out for him and wrap himself in its embrace. However, no sooner when he found what he had left in his entire being, he had failed to see Hikari a Raiden Jutsu. Raiden. Hari Hator. Hikari called out from below as she jumped up with her open wide downwards as she necj was leaned back and lighting burst out from her upper body that went all around. But nowhere near hitting Gaara, as everyone could plainly see that the Uzumaki girl great chakra control. If one were to get a good look at the Raiden Jutsu, they would have seen that some of the lightning had spread out a bit more on her back, giving her the look of wings made of lightning as it burst out at the opponent, or more should she be in a battle of one against many. Naruto had dashed forward in the air as he had caught Gaara after cutting off the tail of Deidara's clay owl. He then looked to the side as the rest of the retrieval team had chased after Deidara to hopefully capture him. Naruto, on the other hand, had decided to stay with his fellow Jinchuriki. Naruto then put his hand on the Kage's forehead as he saw that somewhere he was still somehow alone. Kira. Naruto said as a bright pale bluish-green light went through Gaara's body. Then a moment later he had finally woken up. You have regained consciousness, Sabaku no Gaara. Who are you? Are you with Akatsuki? Gaara asked as he looked up at the silver-haired teen, then noticed his whisker marks on his face and knew that only one person had those marks. Naruto. Indeed, I am Naruto. I would like to speak to you on very privacy matters concerning the other 6 Jinchuriki. Naruto said as he saw Gaara looked at him with a confused look. Naruto then looked around as he heard a loud explosion go off in the forest that were not too far from his present location. It would be hazardous to leave Gaara in his weakened state, however I wish to eliminate that blonde Akatsuki member as well. I guess I will leave up to Kakashi and Hikari to take care of that insect. After a few hours, Naruto had turned around to see the retrieval team come back as they looked a little worse for words to describe. However, he noticed that the large dog Akamaru seemed to be missing from the group, along with a seriously wounded Kiba being carried on Kakashi's back. Naruto rose an eyebrow as he looked at Kiba's wounds, as they needed some serious medical help if he were to survive. He then kept reading his book that he had taken from the lab as he felt very pressed to read the book entitled Loveless, then chose to read out a part of the book as he looked at Kiba's fatal condition. Dreams of the morrow hath shattered soul, pride is lost. Wings stripped away, then end is nigh. Naruto said as he looked over Kiba's condition. He then took out his cell phone and started to dial to Makoto number. It is me. No. I will be a day later too. Just wait for me in my accommodations. Do not let your guard down. I will see you upon my return. He then pocketed his cell phone as he looked toward the others. I know a person who can help Kiba, so I will take him with me. Kakashi-sensei, would it be any trouble if you can help escort Gaara back to Suna? Kakashi looked over Naruto as if trying to read what his former student was thinking. However, he found that he was in no condition to try to find the answer he needed. Naruto then appeared behind Kakashi as he had taken the fallen Inuzuka from him and held the Chunin over his shoulder. I shall be at Konoha in a day or 2 days' times. Naruto said as he started to take a step in another direction, only to vanish like a ghost. Kakashi-sensei, why did you let that thing take Kiba? Sakura asked with controlled anger, or was trying to control her anger. He can't be trusted. Why can you people see that? Kakashi was about to say something toward his teammate, only to see Hikari slap the girl in the face with enough force that a red handprint was showing up on her face. You shut the help up, you no good excuse for a kunoichi. My brother is maybe able to tolerate your presence and your words. But I do not, and think twice before you try anything against him, or have you forgotten his strength in that arena already? However, what I want to know is, why does my Oni-san look at you with such anger in his eyes? This made Sakura get nervous yet again as she had hid the secret that she too was going to defect from Konoha with Sasuke that night. Even stabbed the former blonde in the back to follow her love into the darkness. However, it seemed like that would not become the start of a living nightmare. That she knew was coming for her at some moment in time, however she would not know when, and that very thought made her more scared. Hi. Well, we should escouter the case cage back to Suna now and make our way back to Konoha. Kakashi said as he then nearly fell to the ground as he heard some familiar laughter. Kakashi, I see the mission has gone well, said the taijutsu expert of Konoha as he caught the copy ninja. Well, Suna facility. Naruto had put Kiba to sleep before he undressed him to put him into another tank of liquid Mako to start the infusion treatment on his body. The silver-haired warrior then started to type in some keys as he then began to run a program into the computer on anyone compatible for his friend. It had taken him over an hour to find one that meet his standards in terms of combat ability, however in personality he was unsure of. Began infusion, now, Naruto said in a commanding voice as the machines in the lab had started to activate upon his voice. Began weapon Deskin B286. Clothes Soldier first-class uniform for Inuzuka Kiba. Naruto then turned his back on the Mako infusion treatment as he then started to go into another room of the facility. He then walked over the screen as he pushed a few keys to activate it. Just then a new image appeared on the screen as it showed him something that looked to be very unique. Project Strahl is finally complete ahead of schedule. He then heard a voice calling from the Mako infusion room where he left Kiba to rest. When he had entered the room he had seen a Mughal on the one of the holographic screens calling for him. Naruto had then made the screens separate so that the Mughal could speak to him. Is there a reason you wish to speak to me, Ruox? Naruto said as he looked at the white-furred Mughal who nodded his head yes. Yes, boss Naruto, Ruox said as he jumped up and down. A woman here from one of the distant islands had come here on a strange-looking airship. With the airship's looks, it looks more advanced than your own that is being made in that location. But I would love to have a look at it if that is okay with them. Are they hostile? No, they said that they want to have come with an offer to make with the person making this town. Ruox said with a hint of hope in his voice. I see. Ruox, would it be any trouble for you to find this person some place to stay so they can wait for my arrival? There is no problem with that, boss. Since the homes of the area were the first part of the town that were complete. However, the leader kind of gives me the creeps, because she always speaks rudely and is always serious. But carries a strange-looking sword with her that is holstered behind her right leg. Make them feel welcomed in the town as guests, and should they decide to help in the construction, then let them. Naruto said as he was about to walk off from the room, then stopped. I will be able to arrive ahead of schedule and I will be bringing 2 companions with me as an escort. Okay boss, Ruox said as the screen went black. Naruto had turned to Kiba as he noticed the Chunin was now awake with a look that mimicked a fish with his eyes being wide open. The mask over your mouth device you have on will allow you to speak. Oi, Naruto, just where the hell have you taken me? No, scratch that one, what the hell was that you were talking to? Kiba said as he looked into the slitted eyes of his friend. They call themselves Mughals, a very small race in the unexplored lands that lay east of the elemental countries. Naruto said coldly as he looked at the Chunin. As for where you are now, you are in a facility that will help save your life and help me in my quest. What the hell are you talking about, Naruto? The destruction of the shinobi era. 2 days later, Konoha. Naruto had arrived back in Konohagakure no Sato through his teleportation, however he did not come back alone. With him was a very confident-looking Kiba as he began to look at some of the women of Konoha. Kiba, we are here to report to the Hokage on the mission. Naruto said coldly as he looked at his newly enhanced friend. Not to satisfy your vision with the flesh of the female gender. Or would you prefer me to leave you place you in the women's hot spring where they can show their true strength when they are angered? Kiba had paled at the thought of what would happen should Naruto follow with that threat to his life. As he too heard the rumors of Jiraiya being beaten to an inch of his life at peaking at Tsunade. Let's go see Tsunade-sama then. A most wise decision, Naruto said as he started to walk to the Hokage tower. The two had arrived in the tower with no real hindrance stopping them other than women looking at the two warriors. Naruto had flat out ignored their attention, Kiba on the other hand kept making gestures of wanting to take them out on a date or flexing his muscles. Once they had reached the door to the office of the Hokage's office, the Secretary looked at Naruto with a look of hate as she had told him that the Hokage did want his presence in her office. Only for Tsunade herself to hear what she had said as she was just about to go for a walk to get away from her paperwork. The blonde Kage then punched the woman with enough force to make an human-sized imprint on the wall. "Do you want my report, Tsunade-sama?" Naruto asked as he had already suspected that Kakashi had informed her, but would want on his side of the account when he had defeated Sasori. Naruto had told her everything in the battle between him against the Akatsuki member he had defeated that day. Tsunade had been amazed by Naruto's display of strength before, however from what he had told her made her jaw drop. Then came the time where they had decided to stand at the top of the tower, only to be met with Jiraiya the Gamma Sannin himself with a telescope. The slug princess then hit the super pervert in the head light enough to get his attention as he turned around to face a silver-haired Naruto with 4 swords holstered on his back as he had a look of seriousness. Kiba on the other hand had a bit of a laid-back look to him as he sat down crossing his legs. "Is this a subject of great importance to the Leffe?" Naruto had asked. "Yes and no, Naruto," Tsunade said as she had a solemn look on her face. "The council has decided that you are to be exiled from Konoha as they had outvoted me. It shows little importance to me personally. What were the reasons of that gave them the decision of exile? They fear that you are getting far too powerful to control you and fear that you will follow with your promise to kill Sasuke, Gaki," Jiraiya said as he came back to the village after the meeting had taken place. "There is more to this subject that you do not wish to tell me," Naruto said with his cold eyes as he could clearly see there was more to the story. "Size, Sakura was the one who voiced that you should be exiled," Tsunade said as she along with Jiraiya waited to see Naruto's reaction. However they soon heard something that made their bodies shiver as it was Naruto who chuckled at the information. "HM. I have prepared this action from her as she can use this exile to save the Uchiha from death at my hands," said Naruto as he looked at his hand and in his mind he could see Sasuke bleeding head in his grasp. "Such a method will not hinder my steps to give him death's embrace." "What about your dream of being Hokage?" Tsunade asked as she looked toward the silver-haired warrior. These people whom believed themselves to live claimed to be living with the words of honor in this village. Naruto said as he looked down toward the village as he could see it burn down in his eyes. Honor is not something that can be held or worn like an accessory on one's clothes. No, honor is that you show the respect of those who can bear the chains of pain so that others will not share their fate. Honor is something that person can use in battle to protect their loved ones with all their might, and in protecting someone precious to us we can become truly strong. Man, Naruto, I did not know you knew such things as that, Kiba said as he got up from the ground. "Well, whatever happened to ya, just know I'll be right there beside you." "I appreciate your words, Kiba," Naruto replied as he smiled lightly. "There is more, Naruto," Tsunade said as she had gotten the two friends' attention to her. "I had made the decision into a match with an opponent of their choosing, and you with or someone you can choose to fight for you. However, should you win the match you can have the choice of staying in Konoha or leaving on your own free will." "I see, so if I do not wish to fight, I can choose someone of my picking?" Naruto had asked as he saw the two Sannins nod their heads. "Very well, Kiba, do you wish to test your might against my foes who wish to exile me?" I just hope they can give me a really good workout and not some prisky wannabe hopeful," Kiba said as he grinned. "By the way, brat there," Jiraiya said as he was cut off by Naruto slashing his sword behind himself. "Oh oi, what was that for?" Just then Naruto four bodies had appeared from the ground behind the one-winged angel as blood squirted from the bodies. Kiba had ran up to the Anbu who lay died behind the swordsman. Once he had turned one of the bodies over, he saw the kanji root in the mask of a bird-faced Anbu. "Root?" Kiba said as Tsunade along with Jiraiya scowled at the word Kiba had said. "Damn that nosy old warhawk," Tsunade said while she looked out toward the village. "I wonder what that man is up to this time around. Most likely trying to get information on Naruto's choice for the match," Jiraiya said as he looked over to his teammate. "If Naruto chooses to leave the village, it will give him the opportunity to get him into his forces." What were you going to say, Tsunade-sama?" Naruto had asked, getting her out of her train of thoughts. Oh yes, I want to know why is it that Uchiha Makoto is still alive and in your apartment with some man from Iwa? Tsunade asked. When I had returned from the mission with the Uzumaki family I had decided to walk home. Naruto said as he looked at his apartment. However, it was there that I felt the presences of Makoto-san near by my walk home. I had believed she was dead in the Uchiha massacre the night Itachi had killed his entire family. So I had decided to investigate why her life force was still around the village of Konoha. Once I had finally found the source of her presence was originating from, I had found myself at Konoha's hospital. Through a certain skill I have in my arsenals I had went to her and found that she was in a medical controlled coma. No one should have to live their life in a prison from the outside world, especially not her. So after I had taken her from her room I went to another place to get her the help she needed, and well, I assume you can figure out the rest of the tale. I must say that it is a very detailed story, Naruto. Tsunade said as she smiled at the silver-haired teen. Home did not lose his sense of right and wrong at all. May I return home, Tsunade-sama? Naruto asked. Yes, you two are free to go. No sooner had Naruto turned to leave he was then tackled by a person in black who not only had failed to tackle, but found herself being held up right by the man she had jumped toward. Jiraiya, seeing this, had started to giggle at Naruto's expense at the way Makoto had her arms around him. He had seen that Makoto's S looked the same size as that of the current Hokage's, and then his mind went a mile a second. At the thought of Tsunade and Makoto in the baths washing each other's back with a full view of their bodies. That was until Tsunade had punched the perverted Sannin in the same direction of the baths. I would also pick Makoto-san to be Kiba's partner in the match as well, Tsunade-sama. Naruto stated as he looked toward the blonde Kage, who nodded her head at the three. However, I wish to keep my people of choice to remain a secret until the day of the match, if that is okay with you, as I too will be in the match. Alright, Gaki, Tsunade said as she looked at the three. So it will be a match of 3-on-3, huh? I can say this will be the easiest money I have ever won. Gambling is a very poor habit, Tsunade-sama. Naruto said as he looked at the blonde Kage, who was not even listening to him. He then shrugged it off as the three decided to go home for rest. The next day, Naruto had found himself along with Rushi, Makoto and Kiba, who were outside of Konoha training for their match. Well, Kiba was as is Makoto. Naruto sat on a boulder with Rushi talking about what he was doing in the unexplored continent in the east. So you are gathering Jinchuriki to move to the place you are building in the other continent, huh? Rushi said as he looked at the silver-hair swordsman. And this is for protection against Akatsuki, you say? Somehow I think there is more to this than what you are saying here, kid. Indeed there is more, which I will tell you along with the other Jinchuriki once we have gathered them all. Naruto said as he looked into the eyes of the Yanbi no Saru. Well kid, I must say I think I am going senile. In my age now, so what's the plan? Rushi said as he looked on at the two people training for their match. Well, the first step is to win my match from the prison named Konoha, and from there we head to Yuki no Kuni. Why there? Not that I always wanted to go there. But is there another Jinchuriki there that you can convince to go with you? You will see once we get to our destination, Rushi-san. Naruto said as he watched the two training harder than before, the gap between them as he held Makoto's ankle and blocked Kiba's sword with the Masamune. That is enough training, you two, as we will take tomorrow as a day to rest. The four had decided to walk back to Konoha as they all had felt a person's watching them. But did nothing as this person showed no signs of a threat. Hyuga Hinata had came out from behind tree as she saw two of the four training, but was more concerned about two male swordsmen. Once they had walked through the gate of the village, the group of four were met with Tenten, Haruno Sakura and Uzumaki Kushina. One of the three looked at Naruto with so much hate in her eyes. Kushina had mixed feelings toward her estranged son, whom looked at her with unemotional eyes. Uchiha Makoto-sama, please step away from that thing, Sakura said as she looked her former teammate. It wants to kill you, son Sasuke-kun, with its own hands. Makoto then looked back at the pink-haired banshee. My son died the moment he chose to become Orochimaru's pawn just so he can have power. He is everything just like his father, whom I had no real love for when he was alive. If I were to meet Sasuke again, I would kill him myself. Miko-chan, why would you say such a thing? Kushina said as she had a look of pure shock. Because that is the truth of the matter, Uzumaki-san said without so much of regret. Naruto then stepped forward. Why have you three shown your presence before us? Naruto had asked as he was getting a smug look from Sakura. We three have going to be your opponents for tomorrow's match as well as you executioner. You shall fall on your knees before me at the end of that match or meet your impending doom, just as Sasori did. Naruto said as he showed no look of arrogance. Naruto though walked past them with his four friends who followed suit without so much as a look glances at their council-picked opponents. After they had gotten out of earshot from the three kunoichis, Rushi then leaned toward Makoto. Shall I place some bets on you three? Makoto looked at the red-bearded man with a sly-looking grin on her face. Of course, how else are we going to get by while being on the road? Day of the match. Naruto with his two teammates along with Rushi were in the waiting room as they looked up at the small TV screen to see their opponents waiting for them. Just then Tsunade had came into the room looking at the four who looked back at her with eagerness, except Naruto, on their faces. So you guys ready to go, brat? Tsunade asked as she saw Naruto nod his head. I speculate that no one knows that this is a group fight, correct? Naruto asked. Yes, so far everyone has bet on your three opponents to win the match as well in having hopes that they will kill you. Tsunade said as she looked at the swordsman who had a raised brow. The council has made this into a bit of a death match against you, thinking that you will not kill them as they can kill you without any worries. So the rules are that fight until your opponent is unable to fight any longer for Kiba and Makoto. In your case however, fight until the other is dead. Very well, I have no objections to rules of my match, Tsunade-sama. Naruto said as saw Busty Cage nod her head and went out to the cafe box. Outside the arena cage box, Tsunade then stood with the members of the council that sat beside her chair to have a good view of the demon's death. Alright everyone, this will be a match that will determine the fate of one formerly known as Uzumaki Naruto, who is now just Naruto. Now as I say that this is a match to the death or until one is not able to fight any longer. She then heard people cheering at finally being able to see the demon die for nearly destroying their village, which caused Tsunade to narrow her eyes. However, this not a 3-on-1 match, instead it will be a 3-on-3 match to determine the fate of Naruto. Tsunade-sama, what is the meaning of this? Hiyashi demoned from the woman as the other clan heads stood from their seats with the exception of Chose and Shikaku who were seated beside Tsunade. As I remember correctly, Hiyashi, you said that it can be a group fight if Naruto was able to find anyone who wished to fight alongside him. She said as she smirked at the Hyuga head seethed in anger. But you never told us. Who would fight alongside him? Inoichi said. Well, you people never really asked me if he did find some people to join me, so you can't blame for something like that. We will just have to punish whoever decided to fight with the demon brat after the match is over. Sume said as she looked at her friend Kushina with a smirk on her face, thinking that the demon brat would never fight against her friend. Then they saw two people jump down to the arena from the waiting room for the contestants of the Chunin exams. However, the faces of the council along with Sume were now beyond pissed off at who they saw her own pup down in the stadium with a gained Zanbatu looking sword starved to his back, looking very confident. The other was none other than Uchiha Makoto herself, wearing a black leader open vest that showed a white waist-cut tank top that looked a little too tight on her ass. Then finally Naruto had appeared from nowhere like a ghost coming from a light that looked of pure chakra. He then looked to the person who was calling the match as he saw it was one Mitarashi Anko of Anbu T&I Division. Alright you guys, you know that match rules now, who wants to go first? Anko asked as she looked back and forth. She then saw Sakura raise her hand, then Naruto did the same. Alright, the other four get off the grounds. The others did as they were told as Naruto had not taken his eyes off the pink Chunin once. As he gazed was making her shiver down to her spine. Hajime! Anko yelled. Sakura had charged her former teammate with her chakra-enhanced strength, only found herself unable to get a single hit on the silver-haired teen. His speed looked very much unreal at the moment. Each punch she threw was either avoided or caught by Naruto's own hand. Everything had looked so very hopeless for her as she kept trying to land a single blow on the male body. People in the stands were cheering her on to not give up at fighting the demon, and others saying avenge the fallen Yondaime. No matter how much she had tried, Naruto seemed to be a bit farther away from her in terms of power. However, she then had finally saw an opening as Naruto had caught her right wrist, then held it up. She had used about 80% of her chakra into her left fist and finally landed a blow on the Jinchuriki. I did it, Sasuke-kun. Sakura though as she heard the crowd roar with happiness. Is that all the strength you have, insect? Naruto said as he let go of her wrist and took a step back to show that he was not even affected by her blow. Everyone in the crowd had went silent as they saw the demon brat smile a darkly smile on his face. Allow me to show you my strength. Naruto had punched her in the stomach then was not even close to Tsunade's, but was able to damage the girl. He had not fincied here as he then punched her right arm, breaking at the bones entirely. He then gave her a light kick, in his opinion really, as it sent her across the arena hitting the wall making an imprint of her body. Naruto simply walked over to the down pink-haired girl as he saw that she was still awake. Naruto then summoned Masamune to his hand as he looked down on his opponent who looked at himself with frightened eyes. He then grabbed her by the back of her shirt and tossed her in the sky as he jumped up and started to repeatedly stab her body light in places that would not kill her. Naruto then flew toward her bleeding body as her grabbed her by the collar of her red shirt. Then his hands started to glow red. Fira! Naruto called out as a blast of flames burst around the girl's body, but not to kill her as he still had her in his grasp. I want you to be for forgiveness, he said as he threw her to the ground fast to make another body imprint of herself. The swordmaster then threw the Masamune down toward the imprint of the Sakura and as soon as it went in everyone heard her scream in pain. Then the crowd looked up to where the sword was thrown. What they saw would be something that will be remembered. There in the sky Naruto had one black angel wing coming out his right shoulder. He then flown down to the crater gracefully in a soft landing. Naruto had picked his sword up from the handle. Along with the body of Haruno Sakura with the blade still impaled in her right shoulder, still awake. He then brought the blade of the Masamune out of the girl, then kicked her again to the wall of the arena. And now is the time that I should break you, Naruto said as he looked at his sword. Cage box. TTTT Tsunade-sama, why are you not stopping this torture? Demanded Hiyashi as he watched the demon just flat out taunt the up-and-coming successor of the Hokage. Yes, this has gone on long enough, no stop the match. Sume yelled as she saw the Tsunade not even looking at her or even paying them any attention. You were the ones who made the rules of the match, so you cannot simply take them back now. This match will continue as normal, now shut up. Arena. Naruto then took out a pale green orb from his pocket in his pants as he looked up at the entire crowd. Do you all wish to know the true events of what had happened at the Valley of the End? This orb here is true information about what had happened to me during that retrieval mission, now watch. Naruto said as he poured some of his mana into the orb and showed everyone that had transpired at his battle with Sasuke, as well as everything that was said before Itachi or Kakashi arrived. Everyone was shocked to see that the girls they had been cheering on was willing to help the Uchiha escape to Orochimaru. Tsunade even broke one of the arms of her seat as she stood up from the box. To see Sakura pleading with everyone to listen to her. The ninjas had looked at the Chunin with so much hate and disgust in their eyes, even Kakashi. Naruto, if it weren't for you none of this would have happened. If only you had gone to hell where you belong, Sasuke-kun would still be with me, yelled Sakura as she began to charge the former blonde who looked at her with cold eyes. The blade of the Masamune started to glow for a few seconds as Naruto then raised his sword. Then threw the blade strongly toward the Chunin with so much force, that not only had it impaled her, but pinned her to the arena wall. She then let out another painful scream from the balda being stabbed in her stomach. Naruto had appeared before her like a ghost again. He then leaned into her ear as he whispered so many words so that only she could hear. After a few moments Sakura then began to cry again, not out of anger, just regret this one time. She then reached for the silver-haired teen hand held his hand as the sword started to glow again and her body started to become stone. Naruto kept her hand until she had fully turned into stone, only to break within a few seconds after she was fully completely a stone. Naruto who has now looked at the stoned remains of his former teammate that is in a pile of dust before his feet. He did not have one look of regret on his face or his slitted eyes that just seemed to stare at the pile of dust. His sword then vanished from his hands as he floated back up to the waiting area of the stadium, leaving people in shock once more again. As he had seemingly flown to his new teammates who did not seem affected by this whatsoever. His single black feathered wing had vanished from his right shoulder on the moment he landed. "I'm surprised you did not kill her slowly," Kiba said as he looked toward his silver-haired friend who had his back to him. "I would very much want this annoyance to be completed as soon as possible." Naruto replied as he then walked to the left side of Makoto and leaned against the wall with his arms crossed. "So who is going to participate in the next round?" Naruto focused his eyes as he saw his mother walk toward the ground of the stadium. "Well, I guess that's my K," Makoto said as she jumped down to the stadium grounds as she spinned in 2 circles before landing on her feet in front of Kushina. "I never did once think that our rivalry would be renewed whatsoever. The last time we had trained together ended in a draw, and that was with my Sharingan. But this time I will be able to break that draw, so come at me with everything you got," said Makoto, who gave confident smile to her former best friend. "Miko-chan, why are we fighting?" Kushina said as she really wanted an answer from the woman. "Has that demon done something to make you like this? I must say that Minato-kun would be really mad at you for what you have done to Naruto-kun," Makoto said as she got into a taijutsu stance of some kind. "I want you to know that I too believed in Minato-kun's words in seeing his son as a hero for being the one to carry the burden of Kyuubi, and no matter how much people like you have done to break him or kill him. I know that Naruto-kun has a very strong heart, as he had proved his strength time after time. Even after the Uchiha massacre, when I was wounded heavily to put me into a coma wherein was kept in a secret hospital area that is controlled by Danzo, I still felt this strength that had so much warmth all around me 3 years ago. However, that strength had vanished, for that same 3 years had returned. Even though the warmth was faint, I still felt it with Naruto-kun." Hearing this coming from the woman who she saw as his best friend in their childhood as well in the days as Konoha kunoichis, made Kushina a bit angered that she had mentioned her husband Minato in a close way. "So you're not going to listen to reason? If you mean to your red ballooned head, then no," Makoto replied as she closed her eyes as she knew the referee was holding Kushina back. "Now that our talks are over, let's settle our little rivalry," said the Uchiha matriarch as the ref had finally told them to begin. Kushina then went through a quick head seals to hopefully subdue her best friend. "Futon. K's no Yaiba," Kushina called out as the violent winds raced toward the Uchiha matriarch. Makoto, seeing this attack once before during her career as a kunoichi, jumped back high in a back flip against the wall behind herself. Using her chakra to keep her upright on the wall, Makoto looked at her once rival as she knew her chakra elements being Futon and Suiden. The Uchiha matriarch then ran down at speeds that rivaled between Anbu Ninja or Akage's speed. The moment she was coming upon striking distance with Kushina, a wall made of ground shot up. Kushina, thinking this might have by a few precious seconds, had started to go through some more hand seals, only to be interrupted by a crack on the wall she created. Kushina then had brought a kunai hour from her side pack that is tied in the back. While thinking she that the falling shard of earth would provide her cover, and she then struck at her once friend, only for Makoto to catch her wrist with her gloved right hand, then jumped above the Namikaze head with her arms still in her grasp. While in midair, Makoto then corkscrewed her body so that she is facing Kushina's back. They used the momentum from her landing to lean the woman's back as she then placed both her feet against the said area. The Uchiha matriarch then let Kushina's arm go as she then kicked the woman back as hard as she could, sending the red-haired woman into the air. Kushina pulled out a scroll from her weapons pouch as she went through 2 hand seals and placed her hand on the now opened scroll where a large kanji for water could be seen. Soon water started to flow down from the scroll so that it let a large enough puddle on the ground as Makoto jumped back again. This time Kushina, who is still in the air, went through some more hand seals to do a Suiden jutsu. Suiden. Suiryuben. Just then the water had started to rise up from the ground as the red-haired woman landed on her feet. The water then floated over the head of the Namikaze as he formed a sphere over herself. The whips had struck out toward the Uchiha, who then started to evade as many blows as she could. Only some had managed to give her a few scars on her arms or legs from narrow misses. "Makoto, please give up. Because I don't want to hurt you." Makoto then looked at the redhead, who gave a snort. "Whatever, bitch," she retorted back as she then began to dodge oncoming attack from the jutsu. However, as she was running, no one or even the Hyuga clan saw a faint yellow glow emitting from Makoto's hands, with the exception of 2 saw it. Just as one of the water whips shot to her left side, Makoto had taken hold of the whip, and then yellow lighting that came from her hand started to move toward the water sphere from the Uchiha's hands, making people hold their breaths and thinking the match will be over. Only for Kushina to jump back from where she was holding the water sphere as it splashed on the ground in front of herself. "It is time for me to end the little fight now." "Not so fast," Kushina said as she went through some hand seals as fast as she can, only to see Makoto's body glow golden. Only for the said woman to look at her for a few seconds and start to run more faster as she was leaving a golden streak coming from her body. Without realizing Makoto had gotten behind of herself to kick her back in the air. Kushina, who was too stunned at seeing something that reminded her of her late husband, was no longer aware of where she was. Then streaks of gold started to strike from the back as it rebounded to going in all directions, which had consisted to about 12 blows from the only woman who had become a famed Junin. Kushina then fell to the ground with a loud thud sound as her opponent had her back toward the downed red head. Uchiha Makoto is the winner," said the proctor. Makoto then walked off from the ground in silence as she left so many people in silence. She looked up into the waiting area to see that Naruto was no longer there with Kiba. She then turned around to see that the swordsman in question is stand over the fallen body of his mother. "What do you want, creature?" Kushina spat as she looked at the form of her son, just looked back at her with eyes that still had a bit of warmth. "Kuraja," Naruto said as Kushina's body started to glow a bright blue for a few seconds. Once the light had finally died down from the woman's body to show that she was no longer a battered mess. Naruto then looked down at Kushina, who by this time had started to look over herself for a few minutes. Then saw that the silver-haired teen began to walk back up to the waiting area with Makoto, who was waiting for him. "Why?" Kushina asked as she was completely confused as Naruto stopped in his tracks and turned his head slightly. "I do not know why myself, Kushina-san," Naruto said as he went back up to see Kiba smiling at him. "Why do you have a look of being pleased, Kiba?" "Oh, nothing really," Kiba said as he looked at his friend. "But I believe that somewhere deep down inside you is that blonde who can still forgive almost anyone." Naruto did not reply at the words. "Have you made the necessary preparations for your match?" Yeah, I'm going," said Kiba as he jumped down to the arena floor. "Besides, I got a date on the line in this match and I don't feel like losing either. So just you two watch me out there, alright?" said the Inuzuka, who saw Makoto's side with a smile on her face while Naruto just nodded his head in approval. "Alright, the next match will be between Inuzuka Kiba and Tenten." The proctor called the next match. "Hajime, Kiba, I want you to finish this match in one blow," said a cold voice that came from the waiting area as he saw Naruto look at him. "Oh, come on," Kiba whined as he looked toward Naruto. "You and Makoto got to look cool," he said as he pointed an accusing finger at the silver-haired swordsman. "I had not intention of showing my full power to anyone unless I need to, and I want you to do the same," replied Naruto in his monotone voice. "Oh well," Kiba gave up as he brought forth his buster blade, then looked toward Tenten. "Well, you heard the man, so give me your best shot." "Why you? Fine, then here you go," Tenten said, obviously angered by Kiba's words as she took a large scroll from her back and flung it as high as she could in the air. Kiba seeing this with a smile as he knew where she was going with this attack, as he had seen it on a few missions with the weapon mistress. Not being disappointed, thousands of weapons had started to shine in the air due to light bouncing off the sun. Kiba then gripped his buster blade as it was slung across his shoulder as it too started to glow in blue mist. People had in the stands were not on the edge of their seats as they watched the rain of weapons approaching faster unto their intended target, who at the time made no attempt to move an inch as he had a smile of confidence on his face. Kiba still did not make a single move as he kept his focus on Tenten, who was sweating bullets at her opponent's death. Granted that Naruto's match was a death match to begin with, as the swordsman did not mind it. But this match with Kiba was only for a co-battle as she saw him grip his sword even more. After a few more seconds on waiting for the weapons to come down closer, Kiba then swung his buster sword from his shoulders as it had hit the projectiles away from himself, and the blade swung in the direction of the weapon mistress. A blue crescent-like beam came from the blade, charging at the Chunin, who was too shocked at the attack to move or use any type of defensive jutsu to save herself. Then beam had made contact with Tenten as it exploded all around herself and blew her fast to the wall behind, which knocked her out. Everyone was too stunned to say anything as they had saw the display of power coming from the youngest of the Inuzuka clan had defeated an experienced kunoichi like Tenin with no effort. The proctor had finally came out of his stupor as he called the winner being Kiba, who the said person gave out a yawn and began to do some squats. The winners of today's event is Team Maelstrom. Called the proctor as Makoto landed on Kiba left side and Naruto had appeared slintly on his right as they looked to Tsunade. Seeing as we have achieved victory in our respectable matches, Tsunade-sama, I have chosen the option of leaving the village of Konoha. Naruto said coldly as it earned him a look of worry on Kiba's face. However, I am along with anyone else who wishes to leave with me, will leave in 8 months. If that is an acceptable option with you, as we can work for Konoha as an independent task force under the Hokage only. Tsunade thought this over for a few minutes as it will give him some time to stay in the village for a while, or rather until he saw fit to leave. But then again she knew that mercenaries don't come cheap for hire, as they could even bleed the village dry if Naruto wished it so. Alright Gaki, if you're going to work for me, I want to know how much you want first. All that I request is that we have suitable home along with the standard pay of that of a Junin, with my team here only being under my command. Naruto said as he looked into the eyes of the busty Hokage, who sighed then smiled at him. Deal, Tsunade said as she closed her eyes for a few seconds, only to open them to see the 3 winners were surrounded by root Anbu with their weapons drawn out. What is going on here, Danzo? Tsunade Haim, this boy is a threat to the village and must be dealt accordingly. Danzo replied as he nodded his head to his Anbu to move in. Only for Naruto to appear behind the entire group of Anbu with his gunblade drawn out. The Anbu then fell down to the ground dead as their blood started to pour onto the ground. The silver-haired teen then looked up to the cage box as he locked eyes with Danzo, who was sweating in fear at the gaze from the Jinchuriki. Naruto then had dispelled his sword from his hands as he then waved his right arm out to reveal a single black angel wing on his right side shoulder blade. He then flew up to the cage box where Danzo is seated as he saw the fear in the mon's single eye at his form, like the angel of death was personally coming for him. Naruto then held the elder by his robes, then for a split second let out a smile on his face. Before he took to the air with the man into the blinding sunlight above the arena. Later that night in Konohagakure no Sato, scream of pain and untold agony could be heard in the air. The screams were that of Danzo, who seemed to be screaming for his very life in some unknown area in the village. This had served as a message to the people of the village that had scorned the same one person too many times, and that message was, never cross Naruto, ever. A few days later, Naruto, who was now standing in the Hokage's office along with Makoto, Kiba and Rushi, who revealed that he too is a Jinchuriki. Tsunade was not sure on how taken the thought of 2 Jinchuriki being in the same village. Even with the fact that Rushi was formerly from Iwagakure for that matter. However, Naruto had told her that he knew of a place that Akatsuki would have no knowledge to on where he would hide them. This had caught Tsunade's attention the most, seeing that if they could hide the said Jinchuriki in a place that no one knew of, would help them a great deal on dealing with that threat, as they had been out trying to collect the other demon vessels from other villages. I can assure you that in the location is very much serves the purpose, Tsunade-sama. Naruto said as he looked at the blonde. If your concerns on the location's safety, then I would like Jiraiya to accompany us, as he will be able to serve as a witness to the location's safety in your stead. I can see where you are going with this, Naruto. But the problems is that we do not know when Jiraiya will be back in the village, so I am going to have to ask you to wait a while on that. Tsunade finished as Naruto saw the logic in her argument. But there is something I do know that have great vole, Naruto said, getting Tsunade's attention. Well, I'm all ears, Gaki, so spill it. Tsunade replied. Naruto had nodded his head to comply. I was given some information, the case cage's retrieval mission from Akatsuki, as you are aware that I had assisted in. At the location known as the Bridge of Heaven, a spy that has been working undercover as one of Orochimaru's men under Sasori of Akatsuki in getting information. What? Tsunade exclaimed as she stood up while hitting her desk. Why have you not reported this in sooner, Naruto? I assure you that I would have reported this vital information sooner. Naruto said as his eyes were calm. But with the council along with Danzo had not decided to interfere in my return to the village. So even if I had given you the knowledge of the spy that is currently in Otogakure, I am very certain that Danzo along with those foolish people who sided with the elder would try to use this information for personal gain. Well, I can't argue with you there, said Tsunade as she gave the former blonde a knowing look. I assume that you wish to take part in this mission. Correct, as I will accept that you wish to assign additional ninjas with me for this mission. Then I will comply with your recommendation, said Naruto. However, I wish to act on my accord for this mission and will lend my assistance. Even if I wanted to go ahead with the mission, Naruto, it would not help much because in the time that you will reach the Bridge of Heaven, it will be too late and the spy will have gone back to Orochimaru under the impression that Sasori might have secretly sent a message to a later date. I can get to the bridge with the team on time, Tsunade-sama. Naruto replied with a look that said he was telling the truth as this made Tsunade cave in. Fine brat, but let me pick out the team and you can leave tonight. She then looked to the rest of Naruto's team. So what will you two be doing while Naruto goes to the meeting? Makoto then stepped up to Tsunade with a smile on her face. We are going to Kusagakure no Sato to find the Shichibi Jinchuriki to convince her to join us. But just in case that she might not believe us in our intentions, we're having Rushi join us in the mission. What, so I'm a tag along now? Asked Rushi, who had a tick mark on his head. Would you rather stay here then? Kiba asked. With nothing to really do and who knows, might run into a couple of Akatsuki members. Fine, geez, Rushi said as he slouched where he stood and at the same time excited. Wait a minute, all three of us can't fit on the bike, you know. Correct, Rushi-san, Naruto said as he had his eyes closed. Kiba will be going to the area of my choosing to which I will need only him to go with Jiraiya once he has arrived in the village. From there, you will be taking Jiraiya to the area of Yuki no Kuni and well you will wait for my arrival so that we can go to the safe house for the other Jinchuriki. Keeping the other Jinchuriki safe from Akatsuki's grasp is our top priority. Hey, does this mean that Makoto gets to ride on the Fenrir? Kiba said as his head shot up. Correct, Naruto replied. Ah man, I wanted to take it for a ride. Wind Kiba as he slumped over all the while Naruto turned over to look at Tsunade. Will I be assigned to a new team for the encounter at the Bridge of Heaven? Tsunade looked at him for a moment as Shizune had a bit of mixed emotions in having Naruto go on the mission. Well, I do have someone in mind of going with you on the mission in case the Kyuubi's chakra get out of control. Very well then, Naruto said as he began to walk out the door with his team.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.